Sex, murder, mystery. Welcome to the party. It's a bad week in a tough town, but it ain't going to be a bad podcast episode because we love this movie and you love us and we're amazing and perfect. Hello, we are back. It is your Bat Minutes crew. I'm John Parker.
Hey, and we'll just point out, though, because we were talking about it briefly in the green room there, the reason John said that like welcome to the party business is because apparently apparently that is the tagline to this movie, which is awful.
Awful. Like, a bad week in a tough town's the other tagline.
Yeah, but you think like Shane Black, like how polished this script is and how acclaimed the screenwriter is. Like, would it have killed like any of them to just go to him? Like, can you just give us anything? Like any scrap off your table? You know it would have been better than that. But I guess he's just like, no, man. I'm a big wig. Yeah. I'm the screenwriter. I don't go into the marketing department. But anyway. I'm the other host. You know me. You all know me.
You better know us.
I assume so.
Otherwise, what are you doing here?
Yeah. But yes, here, happy to be back to talk about this film, but unfortunately under sad circumstances. But we'll get to that in a minute. Like, we might as well.
Yes, we will. We have a guest, which is customary around these parts. We are joined by a veteran of the show. It's Dave Pallas.
Hi guys, and I'm at the party, and since I'm a Hollywood snob, it's spelled Dayve.
I actually think we should maybe write it that way in the title. That would be incredible.
But also brought you on specifically, Dave, because you're somewhat of a Shane Black aficionado.
Yeah,
yes, I know you're the one guy, the one lone voice on the mountaintops crying for the other guy's sequel. Still,
Nice Guys, you son of a gun. I mean, I'll take another guy's movie if they make one, sure. But like, I don't know. Is it possible to get Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell to get that comedy team up again? I don't know. But
I think that's partially why the Nice Guys didn't. Because people probably saw it and were like, didn't they do that already? And then we're just moseyed on. And in many ways, the Nice Guys could be another one. Could have been the sequel to this as well, because it's just so similar. But
I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the tri-state area who just put like almost $100 down now to pre-order the 4K Nice Guys. I don't know if it's Steelbook or not, but it's the new apparently upgraded transfer from the film, and it's going. The one I'm excited is that it has an updated commentary with Shane Black. So I am like. So we're gonna get Shane Black at his probably his most recent interview, because I'm like, he hasn't done anything of discussion on any like podcast or anything like recently.
Yeah, my favorite part of that was that you've spent all that money and you don't even know if it's a steelbook or not. You're like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, like it has the color card pop-ups of all the characters that were in the marketing, where it's like, you know. The hard one, or the hard ass, and it's Russell Crowe and stuff. Like, they have all these little nicknames and stuff. The Hitman, it's John Boy. So I'm very excited to have that. I don't know if I'm going to have them framed or something, but I wouldn't put it past me to do some dumbass shit. I'd like go to a framing store. Hey, can you put these in a nice frame?
Well, I'm sure you've heard me say this, Dave, and Niall knows this very well. But before we delve into this, which is one of my favorite movies, Shane Black is also responsible for my least favorite movie. So it's quite a roller coaster for me.
It's the movie that seems to have, like, apparently he has something coming out soon, but he has not been heard of since the film you're referring to, John, which is The Predator.
Yeah, I actually think that's the worst movie ever made. That's how much it angered me. I'm still not over it.
Yeah, I don't. I'm John. I wish I knew. I think I would. I don't really want to. I never want to. Like, I've watched parts of The Predator. Like, that's how much I'm like, I don't want to watch any more of this. It's not the bag. And when Prey came along, I'm like, this is more interesting. And I have enough theories about this that I could fill up a Netflix documentary with them. And I would love the documentary of what went wrong about the Predator film rather than watching the Predator again.
It's like it's another Rogue One scenario where it's like something
Yeah.
massive happened, and there was many fallings out, and there's gonna be eventually Shane Black's gonna be like, I'll tell you exactly what happened with the Predator, because it kind of feels like there's no way it could have been that bad. There's no way.
No, well, there's all that. There's all those pictures from scenes that are not only not in the movie, but they would have drastically changed the story.
Yeah. But it is it's an odd one though, because of course we're talking about this film in particular, sort of spurred on by the sad news of our one-time Batman, Val Kilmer's passing.
He's always going to be one of our Batmen.
Yeah. But it's also coming at like a so strange time too, where like Robert Downey Jr. is back in the public consciousness because he's Doctor Doom in the forthcoming, whatever the next Marvel, like Doomsday, I think it's called. Like, but he's coming back not as Tony Stark, but as Doctor Doom, and it's got all people all in a fluster. And of course, Michelle Monaghan just fresh off season 3 of The White Lotus, and that gets exploded in social media.
Yeah, true.
Everyone loves The White Lotus, and then Shane Black is the one who's just like, yeah, he's been off the radar since like 2018. Like he did the Predator, it went drastically, like it was all hyped up because it's like he was in the original Predator.
And he's usually great.
He's such a fantastic screenwriter. What could go wrong? And then it went so badly wrong.
Yeah.
And then they almost like immediately seemed to fix the franchise by going like, well, here's Prey on top of it.
It is one that you might actually like.
And then everyone was like, oh, this is fantastic. And then they're like, oh, but Predator's back on the rails again. Shane who? Like he's just gone, man. But apparently he does have something in the pipeline. So
good.
Within a couple of months, we might have dated ourselves that he'll be back on top. But
well, I hope it's more like this. Although you mentioned Robert Downey Jr., and I'll say up front, we haven't even said what the movie is, but I know you're building to that, so I won't. Well, people have probably seen the title. I'll let you build to it still. But Robert Downey Jr., I'm not a big fan of his normally, right? I find he can be quite irritating.
Yeah.
But that's perfect for this character. Like, he was born for this role to me. I don't care about Iron Man or any of that. He was born to play this.
Yeah. And this is just the role, of course, for just the sake of clarity, in case people didn't read the title, we are, of course, talking about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from 2005. And yeah, this is the role that got him Iron Man, basically. Like, it was Jon Favreau saw this and was like, that's my guy. Tom Cruise, get out of here. This is the dude.
I mean,
interestingly, I've got the film on in the background while we talk. And there's a scene where they're looking at a bookshelf, and one of the books on the shelf is called Thor.
Oh, there you go.
Everything's connected.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I also not just with this coming out and then Iron Man happening soon after, but like you mentioned Tom Cruise, and then just like Tropic Thunder, and you look and you go like, we're ever going to have a comedy like as insane as that ever again in our lives?
It's one of those that's weird, like, because it was huge, but I also think it's kind of underrated.
Oh yeah.
I think it's great. Like everyone loves it. Like it's
yeah, but it's also I think to a lot of people who maybe more highbrow people, like, oh no, that's a silly comedy. I'm not watching that. And it's like, no, it's actually good though.
Like it's even crazier too that like Robert Downey Jr. at this point in his career, because he's a guy of ups and downs, like an insane up and down. And at this point, he seems to be both in an up and a down at the same time, even though he's set to make like $50 billion or whatever for coming back to Marvel. Because like he was Tony Stark for 10 plus years. I think he's great in those movies, and he just made the part his own, and that the character is synonymous with him, etc., etc. And then he leaves Marvel, can't get any grasp on success. That's this kind of crap. Then noted hack Christopher Nolan gives him a job in Oppenheimer. He wins an Oscar for that, and now he's gone scurrying back to Marvel to be like, "Oh no, I'm good. Yeah, let's just go back to work. As if he's just like, I can't survive out here without you, except I just won an Oscar. But
it's
I know
wild, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not going to be good enough. I was just like, well, I need the security blanket of my 52 million payday for playing now Doctor Doom or whatever. And
I think the last thing I remember Shane Black saying was me and Robert have been talking, so I believe he's talking about Robert Downey Jr. And I think what the phrase was is they wanted to do another Parker movie or a Parker series. And I know there was a Statham Parker, but it really didn't go anywhere. It just became a
Mm.
Jason Statham vehicle. Most notably, I think in our lifetime, I know there's a Robert Duvall film in I think either late 70s or early 80s. But really, I would say the best known Parker film is Payback with Mel Gibson. Like that's like
Oh yeah, yeah.
the best Parker adaptation we have in modern movies.
That you said you've just jogged my memory, Dave. The thing that Shane Black has coming out, it's basically a remake of Payback.
Which
Oh,
is which is yeah, based on one of the Parker stories. Yeah.
Which they already made as Point Blank with Lee Marvin.
That's it. That's
Then
the
they
yeah.
Yeah, and then they remade it with Payback with Mel Gibson, and now they're doing it again with Shane Black and whoever else he's got.
we've got to do it again and
I've
again.
I've read because of this because the Johnny Gossamer novels are very much like in that same pulp story that Parker is. I know Audible was having them for free and they're not long, so like they're only like maybe 3 hours long that you could burn through them really easily. And it's
That actually, that's a good thing. That would actually persuade me to listen to them.
yeah, you could. And I actually bought a graphic novel that came out recently of a. They made a bunch of those and they abbreviated them into graphic novels. So there's like maybe 5 or 6 of them, and it's in I got a big hardback tome of it on my coffee table right next to my Long Kiss Goodnight 4K that I also just got. I wanted if I buy enough then Shane Black should write me a letter. Thank you. If I buy enough of this
He's just gonna show up and hand deliver your next 4K steelbook.
yeah.
I'm just looking. Yeah, it's a new film coming out sometime this year, I think. But like, this is also an up and down thing too, because it's just like okay, It's called Play Dirty. It's basically a remake of Point Blank and Payback, or it's just a readaptation of The Hunter by Richard Stark.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, great, starring Mark Wahlberg, and you're like, oh man.
Ooh.
But then also starring Lakeith Stanfield, and you're like, oh. And then Rosa Salazar is like, oh, I like them. And then it's like music by Alan Silvestri. It's like, this is like, I love all these things. And then it's just like, but the Mark Wahlberg part.
You had to ruin it.
But also apparently Play Dirty is produced by Team Downey. I wonder who runs that production company.
Oh,
And
I'd love if it was a coincidence.
But that's the thing. That's what he's been doing a lot. Is like you see those in the Favreau Chef and stuff where it's like Robert Downey was kind of like getting behind and like making other movies happen. It's like, all right, he's getting a backlog of like this is how I can make money this way. I can use my influence to get storylines. And I was happy for that. But yeah, I feel like I think a lot of us are scared that Downey is going to go into the sellout like part of his career, and he's going to enter old man sellout territory. And I think we're kind of worried like once he enters that, will he ever come back and actually be like a real character actor? I think is what we're talking about.
It's kind of like he's like the ultimate counterpart to who his dad was. Like I don't know, do either of you know much about like Robert Downey Sr.?
Please, no, I do not.
Barely anything.
Because like he's like because Robert Downey Jr. is a nepo baby in as much as like yeah his dad was famous and in movies and stuff, but to be fair to Robert Downey Jr. he did scrimp and save and had to go through hard times and stuff to kind of claw his way to where he was.
Oh God, yeah, and then of course his famous troubles.
Yeah, and that's partially his dad's fault because like much like Drew Barrymore, he was getting drugs. Like his dad was giving him drugs at like age 8.
Oh bloody hell!
Like he was giving weed at 6. He was doing coke at 8, and then his dad said years later, like, "Oh yeah, I kind of regret that." It's like,
kinda, yeah.
But then, but the type of thing his dad made, because he was like from the avant-garde side of LA. So the big Robert Downey movie I remember is a thing called Putney Swope, which is about they accidentally hire like a low-level black employee to be like the main ad executive of this massive company, and he just goes and like starts bulldozing everything and like creating these like insanely honest adverts about like every like the negative parts of every single product and stuff like that, and it becomes like a big kind of it's kind of like a hard edge Brewster's Millions. Where it's, that kind of like, well, none of the above. Remember Brewster's Millions, his whole campaign for mayor was none of the above. I don't want to be mayor, but none of these guys should be mayor, that kind of thing. And this is just this guy going like, you shouldn't buy any of these products because they're all crap, and here's what these companies are doing, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a massive big thing, and it's a big political satire. It's very intellectual, and it makes the very odd choice of they got an actor playing the title character Putney Swope, but he's voiced by Robert Downey. So
Ah.
you're watching him, and his voice isn't quite matching up, and it's
Hmm.
Robert Downey, a white guy, doing this kind of jive talking kind of
Oh
voice.
no,
You're just like,
no.
what is the decision here? But the other kind of thing, like Robert Downey Jr., his first ever movie was at age 5 in one of his dad's films called Pound.
Hmm.
And it was reading here directly from the Wikipedia. It was based on The Comeuppance, an off Broadway play written by Downey in 1961. It is about several dogs, along with a Siamese cat and a penguin, at a pound as they await being euthanized. The animals are played by human actors. It is best known for marking the acting debut of Downey's son and namesake, the then 5-year-old Robert Downey Jr. as a puppy. That's
Oh.
that's the kind of stuff that his dad made. And so he's obviously really weird, avant-garde, like back in the new Hollywood era when like making movies was gonna change the world, man.
Mm.
Uh,
Art.
yes, art. And then his son is now just like the face of, the franchise that many people are arguing is killing the cinema industry. But it's like, well, there's arguments there, here, there, and everywhere. But also, yeah, like his son is Iron Man. Like he's like the
But
biggest, the face of the biggest franchise. Hollywood money spinner where they're just churning out the same crap over and over and over again.
but he also paid his dues. He did movies like this,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't imagine. I didn't look it up beforehand. I don't imagine this made a lot of money.
I did look it up. It had a budget of 15 million, which is nothing.
That's really low in a good way. Like
Yeah.
that's brilliant. Yeah.
It made 15.8.
Oh wow!
So technically,
which is a shame because, as I said at the start, there, I rank this in my top movies ever. We haven't even delved into it yet. I think everyone, if you've not seen it, I don't know why you're listening to us ramble. Go and watch the movie.
yeah, I would say we might as well go through this to try to do it in a kind of because we're it's just a discussion free for all. But the start off with some kind of structure. Like, what are you guys' memory of seeing this for the first time? Because like I was kind of surprised in the aftermath to discover that this wasn't considered a big hit with people. Like, because I remember it coming out distinctly. I remember I was just in university. I was moved
Mm.
away from home for the first time. I remember it was around the time Pan's Labyrinth was coming out too, because I feel that this and Pan's Labyrinth are kind of like in the cinemas at the same time.
Ah, okay.
And I just remember it being like huge with people, and everyone wanted to go see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But at the same time, I was in a film class, and I was
That
reading film magazines all the time, and there was just all the talk was about Robert Downey Jr. and how he was back, baby. And so I just felt like, oh yeah, it was a huge hit. And only now I'm realizing like, no, it was not.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that's what it was influencing your kind of view. Because at the time, I wasn't as into, I always loved movies, but I wasn't as into cinema.
Hmm.
So I didn't hear about it. I saw it a couple of years later on DVD when my manager at my video game shop that I worked at, he was a film guy. He subscribed to Total Film and Empire, all the film magazines he had, and he would show me movies. He showed me Twin Peaks, actually. He's the guy who introduced me to Twin Peaks. And he put this on one day. He just like, here you go, watch this. I'd never heard of the movie, never heard a single word about it. And instantly I'm like, yep, incredible. I went out and bought it the next day.
Well, how about you, Dave? What's your Kiss Kiss Bang Bang story?
Very similar to John's. So okay, so this is I mean, it came out in 2005, but no, I never heard of the film. But I'm in college, I'm in university, as you would say. And I think I was in my like gaming type, like gaming vibe, gaming phase, where I felt like I was with my disposable income in my time in high school and stuff. Gaming was just all the rage. You're playing GTA, you're playing Halo, you're playing early Call of Duties, you're playing stuff like that. So I don't think I was doing a lot of movies. And I think when I was in college, my roommate, he was a communications major. I was doing computer science. So like I was always up on like game news, but he was up on movies and TVs. And I think he got me kind of slowly back into, oh yeah, like I remember like I used to watch like a lot of films like back in like my parents' house, and I'd go to Blockbuster to get rent movies. Now I go to Blockbuster to see like rent games. So I think when I would go visit my parents, I'd come back for the weekend or something, and we'd go maybe kind of revisit those when I was a kid. Like we'd go get pizza or something on certain nights. I'll go to Blockbuster, and I remember just kind of just walking the aisles, and I think that's how I found this. I was like, oh, I like Val Kilmer, and Robert Downey Jr. I haven't seen him in a minute, and I'm just like, I think I like just picked it up on a whim. I think that was absolutely that, just me and my buddies, just like, and I'm probably playing this like not on a DVD player. I'm probably playing it on my Xbox or my PS2. Like that's just kind of the vibe I was in now. Like that was what's plugged into my TV, whether it be in college or it's at home. And I remember just loving it. And just also like, oh yeah, Lethal. Yeah, it said, oh, the writer, this is writer director Lethal Weapon. I'm like, all right, well, I like action films. I haven't seen Lethal Weapon in a while, so I think I was just blown away. And I also was blown away like this whole first act when he does the narrating, and like we're cutting, like you're like Harry's our narrator of the film, and we see like these actual transitional cuts as if like he's stopping the film print to tell you that. It was so mind-blowing to me. I felt like I was like, whoa, like I didn't know you could do this. I was so like just enamored the fact that like we're not just playing with the fourth wall, because Harry in the movie never really turns to us and talks. It's Harry, the narrator, that's playing with the film, and he's interjecting these flashbacks, these cuts. Just absolute blown away. And just the fact that like the comedy was so quick, like you're missing probably every third joke because you're still laughing at the last two. And it makes the replaying even better, because when even as Robert Downey Jr. is turning to the audience essentially to be like, hey, oh, that's a setup. What do you think about that, huh, audience? It's so funny to be like watching it go, oh yeah, like this is the plot points are set up, but I also at the same time, even though he's referencing it, the movie does not stop to explain itself still. It really does not go like, here's what's going on. He does it a little bit more in The Nice Guys, but which I feel like is a little bit more of a wide release type of, he's like, I'm going to write for a little bit more of a wider audience so they understand it a little bit easier, even though it's just as convoluted as a storyline. This one I feel like is his most convoluted on first watch.
Oh yeah, I think the first time I saw it, I was like, hang on a minute, wait, what happened?
Last Boy Scout's pretty easy, and I think Tony Scott also knows exactly. He's like probably telling Shane, like, I'm going to do exactly this, and we're going to get the audience from A to B with Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans. They understand gambling, they understand sports betting. It's a big sports betting thing. That's about all the whole plot's about. It's pretty simple. And just that like Halle Berry had blackmail and they killed her. You're like, okay, that's a pretty easy to understand storyline. This one's the most convoluted, and I think also it's funny about is how cynical it is. It's post 9/11. This is a very interesting American thing I can explain to you, you English Irishman. This is the post 9/11 pre-recession cynicism. This is a specific type of American cynicism we have.
It's only a few years there
where
it had this
and
vibe.
It's a specific where we're a little cynical because of and I'm also young, so I'm too young to understand it. I see it now in my 30s, where it's a cynicism about we're living in this world where our government is using a terrorist attack that killed a lot of Americans to now start policing the world outside of the actual world police joke that Trey Parker, Matt Stone did. It's like we know that, and we're still trying to live like we're in the 90s, but we know that's a front. So there's a hollow cynicism to it. Then the recession hits, and it becomes like a little bit more, I'm going to say, like, I don't say nihilistic, but it's definitely a different type of cynicism. But then it mutates because of the Marvel movies, I think, into like try to be heroic, and it obviously becomes a little military propaganda at the same time. Like, but we're also kind of like, oh, the movies are fun, and the characters are kind of making witty banner. And then we have the Endgame movie. We hit the big points. We go into lockdown. Our political trust is at an all-time low. Our human-to-human trust is at an all-time low. We hit like a new level of cynicism, and now we're at like Trump's second term type of cynicism, where we're just like, oh great, now as of recently Elon is like just cutting off funding for everything. So we're at like I love watching TikTok now of just millennials trying to explain to Gen Z's like, hey, like we're panicking, but not in the way that you're panicking. We're panicking in a we're callous to this type of cynicism.
Yeah,
But at least with cynicism back in this period, at least had some fun to it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
There is a spunkiness to it that it's kind of like, oh, you want to reference the 90s? How pastiche, how like, and it almost reads like how Robert Downey Jr. is Harry. It's this him being an East Coaster in Hollywood, and the fact that it's all about Hollywood, but like there's like movies are happening around it, but it's not part of this movie. Like there's movies that are
actually a really good point.
That, but it's not like, oh, is it gonna end on like a movie backlight? Not really. Like the main characters, none of them, one or two, one of them is an actor, technically, one's a fake actor, and then the other is a retired actor. Like that's the only like actor related storyline we have by the end of the film.
Yeah, because it'd be so easy, and it would still be good, but it'd be so easy to make it like, oh, it's all about the evils of Hollywood. Everyone's double crossing each other, and the crime revolves around the industry.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really. It's just sort of like, oh, they meet at the party at the beginning. Yeah. Oh, there's a bunch of jerks at the party. Oh yeah, because it's Hollywood, and then it kind of moves on.
Yeah, it's funny. It's that Dabney Shaw, who is some kind of executive mogul agent type character. He's a casting director, if anything. He's Larry Miller plays this guy who's only in a handful of scenes, but technically his influence is what gets all of our main characters and antagonists together, and it's kind of like they're all linked just because like, oh, we're all at the same party, and Dabney's just trying to make this Colin Farrell detective movie happen. And it's so funny that technically like Miami Vice is filming probably around the same time somewhere in South America, where Jamie Foxx is like, hey, this place is like actual crime land. There's gunfire. I don't want to be in this movie anymore. I take back what I said to Michael Mann. I don't want to work on this film anymore. And Colin Farrell is like in the middle of a bender, like just happy to be there and to be hired. Because that's what's so funny is that apparently people say like he drank a lot, they said on set, but they said when he was like, but he still came on time, set on time, and he never yelled or raised his voice. He was very polite to people. When they said like Jamie Foxx like had like the entourage around him and just like you could tell didn't want to be there any longer than he needed to, and then just like left the film, and they're like, all right, well, we have to kind of like write that film off. And so that's another movie that I appreciate more now, and I appreciate Colin Farrell kind of like dealing with like this was Jamie Foxx's idea, and then Jamie Foxx gets extra money. And Colin Farrell's like, just pay him out of my salary. It's fine. I just want to work. And it's such a funny film. Like, we're just like, this whole thing is going to shit. But like, Colin Farrell's such a good sport where it's like, I love
in this that whole bit of they've only really hired Harry to try and get Colin Farrell's like fee down.
Yeah.
Because we've heard about that happening many times since.
On this show, they basically Robin Williams them. Like, saying to Robin Williams, oh yeah, you can play the Joker. Actually, no, we just want Jack Nicholson. we're just saying we're committed to you, so Jack will actually do the movie and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but it's weird you point that out though, Dave, because like Robert Downey Jr. is like coming off his drug fueled mania to do this, and they make a joke about Colin Farrell, who at that point was at the height of his drug fueled mania, and then would eventually come down and also go on to play like an iconic comic book character. Of course, Bullseye, as we all know from. Never went on to do any other comic book work.
Hey man, I honest to God I have not watched Born Again, but I love Twitter saying like, you know what? I think I like at the end of the day, I think I like Colin Farrell's Bullseye better. They're just like the man knew how to ham it up. And they're like, it's just more entertaining where they're just like, everybody's gloomy. Everyone's gloomy.
I'm enjoying Born Again, but like when Bullseye appeared, I'm just like, why hasn't he got the thing on his forehead? Like, why wouldn't you just put the thing on his forehead and the giant snakeskin coat and the little crappy beanie cap that Colin Farrell made? Let's just lean into it now. But.
They actually showed a picture of season 2 and they showed Bullseye again. So he's got a blue jumper on, so he looks like the costume. But the Bullseye is just it's etched in like wool in dark navy. So it's like unless you highlight it, barely anyone's going to see it. So it's like they better find a way to highlight the Bullseye on his ski mask cap.
I'm amazed they've even got it there, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's like, the kind of thing that the studio usually goes, oh, we're not doing that.
It took him 40 years to get Hugh Jackman in a Wolverine yellow outfit, you know?
Yeah.
Although at the end, people keep saying, though, at the end of Deadpool versus Wolverine, it's like, oh, when he has the mask on and the eyes are white, it looks so cool. And the whole time that there's like, that looks fucking stupid. And that's why they haven't done it this whole time, is because it looks stupid.
And that's why they do it in a Deadpool movie, because in a Deadpool movie, you can make it look stupid, and that's fine.
Speaking of Deadpool, actually tying everything all back in together, though, I think it must be so frustrating to Shane Black and the people who worked on this, because they didn't invent the idea of, like, breaking the fourth wall, or all that kind of playing around with knowing that they're in a film and stuff, because that's all hell's a poppin' from 1941 or whatever. But they must have been like, oh yeah, it didn't really take off with anyone. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. The idea of the narrator saying, oh wait, stop, I forgot to mention something, and then going back and filling you in later. And then, like, what, 10 years later, Deadpool comes out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's huge, and everyone's like, oh, there's bits where, like, he's narrating and he goes, oh wait, no, I forgot to tell you something, and then he rewinds back the movie and stuff. You're like, they did that already.
Yeah,
they did that in the movie like 10 years ago with freaking Iron Man, and I forgot.
I could actually see, like, that. It's one of my favorite parts. I think you mentioned, Dave, about like the sort of way it's edited and things like that. Very cool, very hip, very snappy. But I could see some people being like, oh, that's irritating. Not to me, obviously not to you guys, but I think some viewers, like, I don't know, my mum, she'd be like, oh no, this is stupid.
I feel though like, this kind of thing was big at the time, like getting into like snazzy editing tricks, because David Fincher was still, well, Fight Club's like 6 years before, and he's all like, we'll have it open in Ed Norton's brain and it comes out up the gun barrel, and all snazzy editing tricks. And then this is like, at this time in TV, you have like Pushing Daisies and Wonderfalls, and there's all like, everyone's all into snaz. It's post Matrix, like, oh, snazzy editing tricks and stuff like that. It's just the Shane Black's doing it with like dialogue all the time, and the concept of the unreliable narrator. I wouldn't say too that like it's not really about the film industry. I think it is about the film industry.
No, but what I mean is that it's not like completely in your face, on the nose, like, oh, aren't film executives awful people?
Yeah. I think it is though about just like how seedy LA is, and obviously the film industry having a big thing. And it's also notable too, to go back to The Nice Guys, because it really reminds me, this film, of LA Confidential, which is also a film about how seedy LA is, and all broiled in with its the legend of Hollywood been tied into it and stuff. And of course that film won Kim Basinger, or one-time Vicky Vale, an Oscar, and then she would go on to appear in The Nice Guys.
with Academy Award winner Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
It's like, so I mean, like, yeah, Shane Black knew what he was doing when he did it.
Yeah. I will note too that my one big thing in The Nice Guys is like, I was like, there's no way Russell Crowe's that big though, because he's so like, he's packing so many pounds in that. And I was like, did he actually get that heavy? And they're like, no, they put him in like a heavier. He was heavy. They put him in a heavier suit. And rewatching this for the first time in ages, I remember when this came out though, because I mostly just knew Val Kilmer from like his like big 90s era. So it was Batman, The Saint, The Ghost in the Darkness. I just remember him.
That rules. Yes.
And so I didn't see him for like 10 years. And then I remember when it came up and like, oh man, he's kind of fat in this. And then now I'm like, no, he's not. Like,
he looks great, doesn't he?
He looks great. But apparently he was coming off having put on loads of weight to specifically be in Alexander, playing Colin Farrell's dad. So it all ties in. Like, everything, there's a whole big symbiotic circle.
Everything's connected. Well, something that I mean, we will actually get onto some vague structure in a minute, but something that I would find interesting would be like, how would people receive this movie now with our main character here, Harry? Because he's very nuanced and interesting. Like, he can be a bit of a bad guy. He can be a bit of a perv, and things like this. He can be quite bad to people, but then, so I would think maybe some people would complain, oh, he's awful. Why do you like him? Because you have to like the main characters these days for some reason. But at the same time, he does do a lot of things that are very positive. He protects women a lot. Despite being a bit pervy. There's a couple of scenes in this movie where he really goes out of his way. In fact, like there's that at the party, actually, that guy's trying to feel her up while she's unconscious. And he's like, hey, you leave her the hell alone, to the point where he even gets beaten up by the guy.
Yeah,
He's willing to get beaten up for this woman.
That's like, I remember that joke landing so well in 2005, though, because you were expecting it to be like, oh, he's going to be a badass in this moment.
Yeah.
And if it was Tony Stark, he would be a badass in this moment. But the fact that it's this hard cuts to him getting his head like banged off the floor. And it's like, no, he doesn't have any skills. He was just, he was, his mouth was, writing checks his ass or his head couldn't cash, basically.
Yeah.
But
And
also made them very endearing.
On,
yeah.
And there's the bit later on where she thinks that he was feeling her up.
Oh, that's the spider.
But
thing,
he legitimately wasn't, and we know that as the viewer. And he actually gets really offended, not that she thinks he would do it, but that she thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
He's like, no, if I was touching you, that would not be okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they're both people from the Midwest. It's like the movie starts off letting you know they're both people from a small town in the Midwest. They're innocent kids. They never, but what's interesting is that he's been kind of like, let's say corrupted, but he's definitely got his East Coast cynicism, and she's got her I'm aging out of being an actress type cynicism of Hollywood. So even when they're kind of rude and they're kind of being jerks to each other, no one's high roading really the other person, because they're both like, we both know that we're cynical, but at the end of the day, we both know that we're like both good people from that. Like we both know, we know that we're not shallow people. We know there's more depth in it. We're old friends from like way back in the day before we left town. I don't know where I remember hearing, I have to say this one line that I know maybe it's a plot reason that why Shane Black cuts it. I'm fairly certain there is either an extended discussion or something where she reads a Johnny Gosford novel. She realizes that Corbin Burnson is the actor that was in the town, and she's passing out in his movie room because I think she puts on the tape and projects the movie that he was in her town in the 80s while she's reading along. I remember hearing I don't know if it's on this where something, but I remember that's why it's like she's in this weird room that has a projecting in the back. It's like she's watching, and I think she passes out watching it, and probably has also a little of an emotional thing. She's thinking about her sister.
That's pretty dedicated, though, to be reading the novel while watching the adaptation. It's like nowadays Harmony would just be having no, she'll have her own minute by minute podcast about that Johnny Gossamer adaptation. Like she'd be that into the thing.
I mean, nowadays they all want you to second screen on your phone watching a movie. Back then, she's like, no, I'm going to read a 30s paperback novel, hardboiled paperback novel and adaptation while the movie plays along.
She knew what her White Lotus audience were going to be getting into, like 20 years later, where people will be like, oh, we love the White Lotus, but we also love scrolling Instagram and memeing the White Lotus while we're watching it at the exact same time. But I do, what the return to your point, John, about like Harry's, I think for the most part he has got that thing of like, yeah, he's a scoundrel kind of like, but he's
scoundrel,
but he's just he's robbing places and stuff like that, but like also he never does anything to make us think that he's like in any way a really bad guy, and a lot of it
he's like he's bad in the sense that he's a criminal, but he's not an evil man.
No. I did get slightly distracted, and maybe it's knowing that they still have to play the game of Hollywood as well, where the two of them, him and Harmony, are both supposed to be 34 in this, because she says her age is 34 at one point, because they do the whole joke about like, oh, once you're past 35, that's it, you're done in Hollywood. But I'm watching it with like, Michelle Monaghan's clearly in her 20s, and he's clearly 40 plus at this point, because it's just like, you just look at the two, and then find out, he was like 40 when they filmed it, and she was like 26 or something. And it's very much like, I suppose on paper that should even out to be like 34, right? They could both pass that. And I'm like, no, they can't. No, they don't. He looks like 10 years older than her, and apparently, he was 10 years older than her. So.
There you go. Oh, that's a great. God, I'm going all over the place. That's a great line where she's insulting that woman for being 35. She's like, oh, she's old. She's past it. And he's like, well, how old are you? 34.
Yeah. But also, they do that in those scenes, though. It's got that little cheeky. It's that Hollywood staple of like, yes, we're being feminist, but also, are you really though? Because like him defending there's things Harry does to defend women in this, but it's still done through the male gaze. So there's a bit where I can't remember if it's a scene with her, but there's someone's lying passed out and wearing a very short dress, and Harry goes over and like fixes the bottom so that the hem of the skirt's a bit lower, so you can't see up into the crotch. But when you're watching the movie, you, the audience, can see those legs. You can't see that crotch, so you're still getting your little. And then the whole thing with the spider is just like, yeah, but you're still getting to see like him up close with Michelle Monaghan's boobs. You know, like it's
Well, true.
it still is a sexy scene. She is still been objectified by the camera. It's done like no, but for feminist reasons. But it's still got this these glory shots of Michelle Monaghan lying sleeping with her legs, her perfect legs lying there, and stuff. And she's still essentially wearing negligee, and it's like. Yeah, it's all like it always frustrated me in Raiders of the Lost Ark when they're like, but Marion's such a strong, independent woman, and it's just like, yeah, but she ends the movie as a damsel in distress. She spends most of the movie as a damsel in distress.
The majority.
Yeah, it's
right,
like you paid lip service to the idea. It's like she's not, and then we had one scene of her drinking a guy under the table, and then, yeah, the rest of the time she's tied to a pole, like, and Indy has to save her over and over and over again. It's like
That's what they should have done in Crystal Skull. Flipped it. She should have had to save him at the end.
yeah, oh man, you imagine they did that. And it had been 2015 YouTube, and that would have blown that Ghostbusters movie out of the water in terms of internet eruption of over thing.
But it's balanced out because in this you have a very prominent gay character now, so it's fine. It's fine.
I didn't note until this time that the name Gay Perry is supposed to be a take on Gay Paris.
Right, I thought the first 4 times I watched this movie that he was called Gay Paris. I thought that's what they were saying.
I always thought it was weird that you just keep calling him Gay Perry, and I was like, yeah, but it's not that catchy a name. And it's been like, oh, it's a take on Gay Paris. It's like the whole thing we did with in '89, whereas only when we were recording that season that I caught on that Jack Napier was a play on Jackanape.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, right. that kind of, it's like, oh, so Gay Perry. Oh, no, I get it.
Plus, I think it's one of those things that maybe people called him it almost to insult him. And it just sort of stuck. And now it's out of affection.
Yeah.
Because, Gay Perry, the gay guy. Yeah, he's great.
Well, he has a line about that, too, where they're like, oh, how are you, still gay? Like, no, I'm knee deep in pussy, but the name just stuck.
I'm not just saying this because, this is in celebration of Val. And he's one of our Batmen.
Mm-hmm.
He's my favorite thing in the whole movie.
He is great.
Everything about Gay Perry is just solid gold. He's got the best gags. He's got the serious moments as well. He's good at his job. He's sick of this nonsense as well. There's multiple times he's like, look, let's just call all this off. Let's not even investigate this anymore.
Of course, Shane Black also wrote Lethal Weapon, but Gay Perry is like Danny Glover's character. But if he were just if he had all the power in that scenario, instead of just having been dragged along by Riggs, he's like, oh, but this is just like, no, the hell, I'm not dealing with your bullshit anymore. He, of course, gets the most famous line I think from the movie is the whole if you look up idiot in the dictionary, what are you gonna find? A picture of me? No, the definition of the word idiot, which is what you are.
I love that so much. Everything he says is great. It's such a clever way to write a gay character as well, because he leans into stereotypes, but usually to annoy people, to make them let their guard down.
I think that's. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
There's definitely something about Perry knows everyone still thinks of him as an outsider because he's gay, but he's also the best in the business. So it's like they not say they deal with him, but they're just what I'm just saying is kind of how Dabney kind of talks to him, oh, you look at a guy, I don't know how you do it. You look at a guy, you're I want that, and it's and right, Gay Perry's sitting yeah, that's my preference. Who gives a shit? Give me a case or not. So I think he also has this thing where it's my job. My job ends where my job is, and that's why it's I'm not your friend. I'm only doing it because my employer pay me to make sure that he and the studio do not get caught up in some kind of murder charge.
And he failed at that.
and really, I feel it's Perry doesn't get involved. I would say Perry doesn't get really involved until he realizes there was a mistreatment of a person and kind of someone, a person got screwed over. I think is when he really feels he gets involved. And what I mean is because I feel he, he escaped out of his town when he became open. So it's he had his skills and talents. No one wanted him, and his father beat him and stuff, what he says. So it's like he escapes to LA. He's really good at his job. He's open about it, but he's still kind of an outsider. People only look at him professionally. He's not like he's not being invited to these parties for fun. He's being invited to these parties because they're going to give him a job.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. Is like when you realize that no, Perry's not anyone's friend here, but then he kind of becomes their friend once he realizes like Harmony's sister was involved. That this poor daughter, because she didn't like her father, essentially got drugged and imprisoned in a mental institute. And another poor girl kind of got abused into a relationship thinking that she was going to get some money out of it. Turns out that she got used in a whole scheme. So this guy could just get the wife's, the wife's, money and stuff. And I think that's like an interesting part about Perry is that like by the end of the film, when it's like they have that post credits. By the way, also I love the ending where they also make fun of like how audiences want a happy ending.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so genius.
And he makes fun of like the Midwest people. Well, the Midwest people, they're not going to like this. We got to make it happy for them. Let's bring everybody back. Let's bring Abraham Lincoln back.
And I fall for it every time, right? I think every time I watch this, oh, Perry's dead. Perry's dead. And somehow I always forget. They go, but you wouldn't accept him dead. He's back. Here he is.
Yeah. I like the way, too, the opening scene of the film actually really, because Shane Black, of course, expert screenwriter, and if you look at anything about screenwriting, they're always.
But he also hates Hollywood as he writes. He just hates Hollywood.
But also, he'd be like, so if you look into like screenwriting, they're always like within your opening 3 minutes, within your opening line, you've got to like sum up what your film's about, basically. And like I love before it cuts to the credits. There's the whole thing about like they're doing the chainsaw, like the two kids are doing the chainsaw magic trick.
Yeah.
And then her dad runs over, and he's like, oh my God. And then she's like, I'm going to be an actress. And it goes to him about to smack her. And it's one part, oh, that's really funny. But also, holy moly, that's dark. Yeah. We're opening with the kid getting smacked in the face. But by her dad, who is essentially the main villain of the film by the end. It all boils back down to. And then, of course, one of the most memorable scenes at the end is her dad getting smacked by Gay Perry. Because as I was watching that, I was like, I actually had to consult a few people just to get their opinion. Because, of course, Val Kilmer played Batman. And he played a contentious version of Batman. The way we're talking about him in this movie, because he's so good as Gay Perry. And apparently he went out and he's like, the whole time he was always wearing nail varnish and trying different affectations of his voice to get everything down, and he's so charming in it and stuff like that.
Oh, well, that dedication paid off because he's like a stereotype and not a stereotype all at once. It's genius. It's such a clever line. But he's like a lot of people I know.
but with that, and then you've been like, he really threw away been Batman. Because again, he was so good in Tombstone. He's so charismatic in Tombstone. He's so charismatic in so many things. A real genius and stuff like that. And then he was approached to Batman. I know this is a contentious point with you, Dave, because we discussed it that season. I mean, we discussed it at length that season. The fact that he plays Bruce Wayne has been like dead. Like he's just a man who's broken inside in a very dull manner where he just isn't emoting very much. And his Bruce Wayne and Batman are essentially the same performance. And I was like, man, you're throwing it away so much. But on top of that, I was thinking when he comes into that room at the end and he's wearing the big long black coat and he's laying down the law with Harmony's dad. I was thinking this is a very Batman moment. But I think it's when he smacks him around because he's like an invalid old man. He can't do anything. And I was like, that's like where he stops him in Batman. I actually had to consult people like, do you think if Batman was in that scenario where he found an old pedophile, essentially.
Yeah. And
the guy couldn't defend himself. Would Batman come and smack the guy around? Because that's what like Frank Castle would do.
I don't think Batman would.
No, I think in that scene, if it was, he starts off that scene as very Batman, where he's coming in and he's laying down everything. And you're like, oh, here he is. Val's Batman lives again. It lives even more so. He's more Batman in that scene. And then as soon as he smacks him, it's like, no, Batman will be like, here's the proof, and like lie it down, slap it on his lap, and be like, "You're going to jail," or he's like, "I can't get proof, but I know where you live, and you'll never not be looking over your shoulder, knowing that I know where you live." Kind of thing.
That's what he would do. That's absolutely what he would do. And I think a lot of movies. What's so good about this? It takes risks, not just with the comedy, but with stuff like that. A lot of movies, that's what he would do in this scene. He'd be like, I know what you did.
Yeah.
And he'd leave it at that. But this movie's like, oh yeah, and he's going to smack him.
I think
Wow.
I say this as a Batman fan. It's like it's more satisfying they smacks him because the guy 100% deserves it. I want a Frank Castle to walk in now. I want the Punisher to be like, oh, by the way, I'm here to like literally tear your jaw off with my bare hands. You know?
Well, I think what's so good in this though is that it's restrained though. Like he hits him, but he doesn't beat him to a bloody pulp. It's more to prove a point than to hurt him.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's just a nice, like, yeah, saying it's like a bookend. It's like he began the movie. He was the one towering above the defenseless, it's a little girl, and now at the other side, oh no, he's the one lying defenseless, and he's the one getting smacked around. And it's like, oh, there you go. It's a full circle moment there for that character, which is what good screenwriters do. Which is what Shane Black. How did he mess up the Predator so much? It couldn't have been him. It couldn't have been him. It had to be something else going on there.
I live with Val Kilmer's performances. I know I've defended it, but at the same time, I know that he was working on Heat at the same time, and I just feel like maybe he should have done one and then the other. I think if he did Heat and then was able to do Batman Forever afterwards, after he kind of readjusted himself, I think you would have gotten more. But I really just feel like maybe Val just was in a lot in Heat and just was, and then Joel Schumacher comes along and they're kind of like, all right, this is going to be, we're going to have a hint of camp in this. You're going to kind of just play the most straightest of straight man in this. And I think, and I think he like gave Val the room to be like, take it easy tonight. Because we're filming tonight. You're going to be on the set of Heat tomorrow morning, probably doing something very gunfire dramatic. And I think maybe Val kind of was like, yeah, I'm going to give an 80-20 performance and just give like 80% of myself to Heat, and then at night I get 25% of myself.
I think you've been I think you've been generous, Dave. I think it's like the reports of like the most beloved and most like gentle, kindest man in the world, Joe Schumacher, getting in fist fights with Val Kilmer out of frustration, and the fact that like Kilmer himself was saying like, yeah, I noticed that the kids seem to be excited about the Batmobile and the costume rather than seeing me. So like I was like, well, it's just a costume. Then the role means nothing. Like he just threw it away.
Then I don't understand. Well, then I heard the other story where like they're like, oh yeah, like that, like Joe was being easy on Val and like that he could just kind of like as long as he did the scenes, like he wasn't going to beat him up. And then you're saying that he does. So I'm like, okay, I've gotten some conflicting information.
Oh no, he like Joel Schumacher was like there's a reason he never wanted to see him again. He was just like
okay.
No, and apparently again the gentlest guy in Hollywood literally came to fistfights with Val Kilmer out of
so interesting.
And then like it's just bizarre too that Kilmer said that because in the script of Batman Forever it's all Bruce Wayne and it's all psychologically complex stuff and there's so much for him to do. It's like what was he so like and then also in this dojo. You're not going to get away with like, well, he was doing Heat at the same time. So it's like, you take Batman seriously, man.
And you're playing
Batman. You take it seriously.
I understand that. I think, I'm going to still say that part is that the two movies there should have been a split. It's a shame that he was filming both.
Yeah.
Because I think he did then. I really do think he gave like the minimal performance to Batman. I try to appreciate what I can out of it, but I do realize like I'm scraping like, not much there, like at the bottom of the jar, the bottom of the barrel. Just like, I think it's a lot more of just him kind of like he found it. Maybe he heard how Keaton kind of got, the overriding of like the other characters. And he was like, oh, it's probably the same thing is going to happen to me. So why am I going to give more percentage? Because they're just going to overrule me with more fantastical characters with that Tommy Lee Jones and the buffoonery of Jim Carrey.
They will happily sanction that buffoonery, from what I understand.
Buffoonery is only good when it's sanctioned.
We talked there briefly about like why the movie might not have taken off with people, and like how do you market this? And I think the frustrating thing is like it has a kind of, I would say there's an obvious way to market it, but it's maybe it just wasn't for that time. Because I remember the poster for this was a very sort of bland, like it was white and it had the two of them in blue.
Yeah.
And then there was like a red streak, and I think Michelle Monaghan's face was in it. It was like, that could be any action movie, really.
No, that's 100% right, actually, because when I told someone yesterday I was, watching this again, they were like, oh, right, I've never seen that. They didn't seem that interested. So I was like, no, here's a trailer. Watch this.
Yeah.
And once they watched the trailer, they were like, oh, that looks great. I'm like, yeah. The poster doesn't.
But you could also, so you could have had just like Jason Statham and Dolph Lundgren, kiss, kiss, bang, bang, and just had the same poster, and people were like, okay. But I think like what you need to do is lean into like the Johnny Gossamer covers. And like
Oh.
that's such an iconic thing at the end where the coffin's hanging off the bridge and Downey Jr. is hanging off the woman's arm and he's got a gun in his hand. That's a poster. That's your poster right there is that shot. I'm surprised they didn't like go to the studio and go like, yes, we shot this to be the poster. And you don't even have to have it like photorealistic. You could do it in like an old Saul Bass, like Vertigo posters, like that kind of like have like a stick figure hanging off a coffin.
That'd be like perfect because it captures the tone. Because it's an action and whatnot, and intrigue and stuff. But it's also kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because he's hanging off a corpse.
It's so eye catching. It's like you could have a coffin, like whether it be illustrated or photorealistic, but like you could have like a Saul Bass stick figure hanging off a skeleton hand coming out of a coffin with a gun in his hand, like and fire it. And there you go, and just kiss bang that. And everyone would be like. It would that image would sear itself into your brain, presumably.
Yeah, the poster, God, it's all it is them in blue, and the blue are images of Val Kilmer, Robert Downey Jr., and Michelle Monaghan just overprinted, and like a few of like what could be from the final shot, but because it's like a zoomed out shot of like cars, you're like it could be anything, and then just white space behind them, and you're like that white space. That's where you could put some kind of reference to Hollywood. To LA, you don't know where this takes place. So it's like, you could have had a fake like movie studio. You could have had something where, you could have had an imprint of the car crash and have like the Hollywood backdrop in the back. It's like, it's just so much you could have done. That
I have a memory though of like white space being just that era.
Yeah, it was a big thing. Yeah.
Like the American Pie posters and stuff were always like, this basic pictures of the cast, white background. Just red writing.
That is true. Where it's like it's just the characters, and you're just like in a backdrop, and you're like, no backdrop.
For some movies, that works great. I just think for this, it really didn't tell you what the film was at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
And it is hard though because all my favorite parts of the movie are the things that might not work for everybody. Like, I mean, my favorite, the thing that's got more laughs out of me than anything, probably in any film, is when he pees on the corpse.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you explain to someone why that's funny? Most people would be like, "Oh, that's gross." You're like, "No, you need to see it in context."
No. And the fact too, like they gave her back. It's like, what do you mean they gave her back? It's like they have to get the body back.
See, it's things like that, or like Perry with the how do I word this? I'm just going to say it: the dick gun.
Oh yeah.
Homophobes never check there. Like, how do you explain to someone why that's funny that he shoots a guy with a gun in his pants?
It's like, was that the same joke sort of updated for Broad City years later with like the pussy pockets? It was like, that's how you smuggle drugs is by putting it up your vagina. It's because no one's ever going to look in there.
We also get one of the best lines from that as well, where Harry's like worried that this was just a gay thing. He's like, I thought maybe somehow you guys could do that.
Yes.
I did know, because I looked into some random bits and bobs, and I saw that apparently we do have a scene, notably, of Batman kissing Iron Man in this, where like they need to distract briefly, and so like Perry grabs Harry and gives him snogs him basically, so the cops passing by are just like
that's great.
But apparently Kilmer said, I don't know how serious he was. He might have just been joking around, but he said at that moment he was thinking of Kevin Bacon because he's like, I just wanted to get into it, so I was imagining I was kissing Kevin Bacon at the time, and it's like. The Kilmer 2 strikes. He's like, oh, yeah, I imagine he probably dabbled. We've talked about Val Kilmer a lot, and his contentious reputation about being like, everyone seemed to think that he was horrible to work with, but except Robert Downey Jr. apparently loved him. They got on like a house on fire, and also then Val Kilmer's perception of the world is just like. No, I get on fine with everybody. Like people said that him and Marlon Brando were literally nearly at blows, and he's like, I love Marlon Brando. He helped me through my divorce. He was a wonderful man. And you're just like, and then all that documentary he brought out, where he just talked about it's all footage because he documented everything. Like he filmed himself constantly. He was like a freaking YouTuber, and he was all his stuff is just this esoteric talking about. You think him and Jim Carrey would have gone on much better, really?
Yeah,
they both pontificate about the universe so much. And I imagine Kilmer would have been the kind of guy who's like, well, I'll try anything once, and he would.
Yeah, I could get that vibe. Yeah. He's got actual genuine gay energy.
Yeah, 100%. If you told me afterwards that Val Kilmer just was gay, I'd be like, yeah, that's all right. Like, no one wears a polo neck that well. It's like only a certain type of man wears a polo neck that well. We all know who that type of man is.
Well, and he's also the master of the. Oh God, I'm gonna have to say this word. Apologies, people. There might be a slur coming up. He's the master of the faggot gun.
Oh, of course, yeah. I was wondering how we were going to get around that in the review. Just like he says it a lot.
He's allowed to say it, the character.
Yeah.
But I love his explanation. It's only good for a couple of shots, then you have to drop it for something better. That's why he calls it.
I mean, we're definitely in the vulgar phase of just media, where if things were vulgar, you could get people to accept it more. Kind of like the vulgarity of Willem Dafoe's character in Boondock Saints. Like he's sleeping with a guy, then slurs him up. Then he's at a bar and he's like, "I just want to get drunk here," and then he slurs. So it's like it's weird where it's like he's gay. He is a eccentric but good detective, or a federal agent essentially that like hates these Boston cops. Absolute, like homophobic slurs. But it's like because of the vulgarity of it all, you're like, oh, I'm somehow mostly I love this character. You're just like I can't get enough of his the next thing he's going to do. Well, he's going to cross dress. He's going to shoot a mobster. It's just the vulgarity of it all.
Well, Perry gets away with something you don't see, here, a lot of in American movies. A word I can't say, the C word. He says he's gay. He's allowed to say it. It's not as offensive. But my understanding is in America that's very, very offensive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if you somehow need to say something about a woman, that is the nuclear option. The only time I've ever gotten to it was back in college, and I don't worry, I'm not going to make a big story of this, but like I was doing tech, and we at LaSalle, it was a theater group. It wasn't a program. Like we weren't doing it because of our careers. We were doing this because we like just for the fun of it. So
that's the way.
So we hired a woman, this director Carol, and I don't think she either never listened, never heard, or didn't believe. She was treating it like we were all going into theater majors. So she would be mad if we didn't know something. And it's like, no, we're all just kind of self-taught people who are doing tech, people who are doing acting and stuff. So it was kind of one of these things where you're like, at some point, she's just being really ignorant, where it's like, look, we're going to make a good show here. I just don't know why. I remember being like, if she would say something bad, or if she would talk bad about an actor, and like I'd be like sitting there at tech, like doing sound effects and stuff. I was like, my God, like she's incredibly rude. And I was like, always like, I just nicknamed her Big C Carol because I was just like, I don't think anyone wants to work, but like after we get the show done, I don't think anyone's going to want to work with her, at least at the school again. It was just like she was absolutely rude, and I just remember just her like, and she just didn't understand the concept. We were like, no, you don't get it. We're just doing this for fun. Like we're not theater majors. And I just remember her like just being really rude. It's like, give a lot of these people, like these freshmen, these sophomores, even us older classmen, like give us some rope here. Like we're learning stuff like from our mistakes. So I just remember that was the only time I ever was like, I'm hinting at it. That's how much I don't like this woman. Just Big C Carol, all right?
Yeah. Technically, John, you should be allowed to say it, though, as being an English person, because it's constantly bandied around by English people. So.
Yeah, it's pretty common.
You smoke your slangs for cigarettes, and then you call someone a C word.
I mean, it's not something you'd use, you probably wouldn't still say it around your parents or something, but it's a pretty regular thing to say to your friends. Like, you'll call your friends it. It's not even really used that much to insult someone. It's more to, like, jokingly insult your mate.
Yeah.
Like, I might call you it now.
No, I've seen people, like, within the last couple of days been like, so I'm going to a wedding next week, and then someone put it in the WhatsApp chat for it, just like, oh, so, the guy who's getting married, Michael Wilson, been like, oh yeah, so is there going to be a free bar at this thing because you're a big high flying solicitor? And he's like, no, well, it'll be free tap water. And then the response was just like, you cheap, basically. Let's just buy it back. And I was just like, yeah, that's.
I'm sorry, but now I have to. I'm imagining it's a Peaky Blinders type looking wedding. Everyone's wearing the cabbie hats, and everyone's like pointing fingers at each other, like no guns, no knives. All right, everyone's just yelling at each other.
You only get like 2 minutes to take the wedding photos because of all the smog up in the air.
Yeah.
But also, so another thing I found out, and this would have been like, what alternate universe, what's that be like? It's like, okay, so there's always alternate casting in these scenarios. And apparently originally considered for the role of Gay Perry,
Mm-hmm.
Harrison Ford.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he would be great playing a similar character, but I don't know, would he be good at playing the gay aspect?
That makes no sense to
would
me.
the joke that he's gay be that he's so ungay?
Maybe that would be it. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, he's grizzled, grumpy, straight face, like straight in more ways than one face, Harrison Ford. And then it's just like, yeah, just swap that earring over to the other ear, and then there we go. we got Gay Perry. But
Old school reference with the earring.
yeah.
I don't know. I can't see it for the life of me. And I'm trying to imagine, obviously, not 80-year-old current day Harrison Ford. I'm trying to think of someone in the early 2000s. When was Firewall? I'm trying to think of a movie around that time that he was in.
I think Firewall would be that era. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably, because he wasn't really at his peak like around this time.
No.
Obviously the 80s and then the 90s, he was still doing loads in the 90s, but around here he wasn't doing a lot.
I think it's like what Lies Beneath was the last big one for like a long time.
Yeah.
So I think this is not this at this point. It would have been like, yeah, he's on the wind down. Like maybe that's why they didn't go for him, because they're like, well, no. But then Val Kilmer's not going to be hotter than Harrison Ford at that moment either. So
I would say, if anything, you'd cast him as not Dabney Coleman, Corbin Burns' character. Oh, Harlan Dexter.
Yeah.
But maybe that's good that you get Corbin Burns. You get an actor who's like, he's kind of past his mostly prime. Like he's doing like Psych around this point. But because if you put Harrison Ford, everyone would be like, wait, Harrison Ford's in this movie. Well, Harrison Ford's got to be a big role in this movie. Whereas Corbin Burns, he kind of comes in the beginning, says, oh, I'm the older actor. This is my house. And you kind of forget about him, even when Robert Downey Jr. says, oh, what's that? Might be set up. What do you think about that, audience? I don't know. I just feel like this movie, honestly, having no big actors is a good thing, because then the audience doesn't have any expectations of like, well, if you have Colin Firth after he wins an Academy Award and it's called Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I'm starting to think, or like who could be going for an Oscar at this point? Is it the guy that wants an Oscar so bad? Is he the spy?
Yeah.
Something to think about, folks.
I think it's a strange one. It's a weird one. Well, Harrison, don't quit your gay job. Whatever that is.
I think at this point, though, it was just a good time for Downey Jr. because at this, he is kind of playing what is now just the Robert Downey Jr. role. I think at this point, when I first saw this, the only things I'd seen him in would have been Weird Science, where he barely registers in it.
Yeah.
Chaplin, completely different kind of role, playing Charlie Chaplin. That's when he's really into like proper serious acting, really going
I'm
for
an actor
kind of stuff. And then Natural Born Killers, which I hated him in. Because people love him in that movie. He's so over the top. And I think but the whole movie is just like, you have to accept that it's a mess, basically. But it's
been that long since I've seen it, but I remember wasn't it all pretty over the top?
Yeah, the whole thing is so like amped up to 55 billion. Like it's so everything's like, so you can't blame Robert Downey Jr. So it's just like, well, that's everybody's doing this. And so when he comes, and then obviously big one at the time for me personally was Ally McBeal. And he was playing a kind of smarmy, sort of witty, kind of asshole, but also very lovable kind of guy in that. And then obviously, well, the kind of chart his like troubles is like, okay, so he's kind of biggish. He's climbing the ladder in the 90s, and then hits up against like try to list his drug offenses and jail stints and stuff like that would be impossible. There's so many of them. It was properly like. He was constantly getting arrested. And to the point then you think like, yeah, Ally McBeal was supposed to be his comeback. And then in the middle of it, he got arrested again.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually, then they're like, no, we're going to bring him back. We're going to bring him back. And then I think, then after that, he got arrested again. And they're like, drug offenses, this, that, and the other. And they're like, no, we're having to write him out of that season and just come up with something. So then when he finally gets here, it's just like, yeah, right, let's see if we can... I think they're even saying for like Gothica, which was like just before this.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
They had to like, I think they paid him half his salary, and were like, you'll get the other half if you don't mess up, basically. That was the incentive.
That is actually, I don't mean this as an insult, a good way to sort of work with someone who maybe has, addiction issues and things like that.
Yeah.
Because, it's a bit like I follow an ADHD, I don't want to say influencer because I hate that term, but I guess that's what they are. And they were talking about how their husband is their career manager now that they're also a musician and things like that. And he looks after the money. And some people in the comments were like insulting, like, oh no, that's awful. And she's like, no, this is great. This works for me. If I get the money, I'll mess everything up.
Yeah.
I can't be in charge of that because she was an addict and all these kind of things as well. It's like, no, him having the money is how we work. So it's a bit like that. It's a bit like they're doing that for Robert. Like, no. We'll make sure you don't go off the rails by doing this. And then you get your money. Don't worry.
Yeah. And it seems to got like everything about Danny Jr. now is like, well, I say about now, maybe he is more open about it these days. I've not seen him interviewed on this stuff, but it's obviously it hounded him. Like his reputation for years and years and years. And then there's a big infamous incident where like, so, he comes along and does this and it's sort of like, it gets his name back in the map a little, gets Iron Man, that's all she wrote so far. But there was when he was doing the press junket for Age of Ultron, and he came over to England, and it was all glad handing, just like, oh, which type of Coke do you think Iron Man thinks is it? And then it was Martin Bashir, the guy who took on Michael Jackson and all this sort of stuff. He got in there, and he was just doing his job, but he started talking about it, like, oh, so all your addiction issues, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, Downey Jr. infamously was like, whoa, what the hell is this? Like, I'm not here to talk about that. And then just walked out of the interview. And everyone was just like, oh, what a baby and stuff like that. But like, it could be now that he's just compartmentalized. It's like, no, that's all done. I don't address that ever, that kind of stuff. That's why he's not on like Mark Maron. Because you assume like Mark Maron interviews everybody. He's not interviewed Robert Downey Jr. because he probably would be getting into like, well, so we're going to have to talk about like your decades long, cocaine addiction and all this other stuff.
Absolutely. And for some people, talking about it helps, and for some people, talking about it is actually worse.
Yeah.
So we're all different.
I'm sure he's all clean and good. And I was actually surprised, and it's a weird thing to have to say, but like, because he was the kind of friends he was keeping was like people like Sean Penn, Mel Gibson back in the day. Apparently they were the fair to them, they were the ones trying to get him into rehab and stuff way back when. And the fact he was doing things like accidentally breaking into people's houses, and he was so unhinged that they couldn't get projects with him off the ground because they're like, we can't insure this guy, et cetera, et cetera. I'm still kind of surprised in a post Me Too era that no one's like landed anything on him, because it seems like he's bound to have done something just by like maybe not in his right mind, but like
when you're on that much stuff,
there's like, is it possible that he was like no, he was a very like beyond just been out of his face the whole time. He's actually a very nice man. It's just that like he didn't do anything non-consensual with anybody. He never sleazed with anyone. He was a good guy. He just happened to be on coke a lot.
Well, I think that's why he works so well at this character, though, because obviously this character's not a druggie or anything, but he's got a lot of problems, but he's a good guy.
He's
like
a good guy.
Saying. Like, he's trying. He's trying his best.
Yeah.
He's a screw up. But we can relate to that.
Well,
we're all screw ups.
But I feel now a bit guilty. He's like going to like he's got to have done something though.
No.
But it's a bit like when we were reviewing the People's Joker, John, which is a review that hopefully will finally come out by the time this episode airs. But they had that joke about like, oh yeah, isn't that singer who I think's canceled now, and they have to put up a thing going, no, he isn't. And also, like, no, he didn't do anything or stuff like that. It's just like, well, why even mention the joke? Why even make that joke in the movie if the guy didn't do anything? Because once it's out there. But I'm just saying, it's like, it's weird to Robert Downey Jr., but maybe he is also super rich now. So it's like, maybe he's got the money to be like, no one will ever say anything about me.
Or maybe he's just that nicer guy, again, like his character here, that even when he was off the rails, he still didn't cross that line.
It could be.
Because some people are like that, which is great.
But to go swing us back into lighter territory. So we had Harrison Ford, a pitched version of Gay Perry, originally up for Harry, Benicio del Toro.
What?
Which is like,
I could see him playing Perry, maybe.
Yeah, actually, I can see him playing Perry. I can see him doing Harry, but very differently. He could either do him is his usual kind of mumbly, late 90s Benicio del Toro excess baggage, that kind of like, oh, sort of mumbly stumbly, don't know what's happening kind of thing. Or he could play him like a freak, like a
But would
wild
that work
freak.
for Harry?
I think it would be it would be an interesting movie to see wild freak Harry played by Benicio del Toro. Like for that guy he plays in Guardians of the Galaxy, like that level of performance, and then like
Wow.
stone faced, gay Perry is Harrison Ford in the corner. It's like that's a movie. Like I don't know if it's a good
Okay,
movie,
okay.
but it's something to see. But like I think we got at least the best possible timeline in this instance. Is that like, yeah, we landed on the right people, but like Benicio del Toro is like, maybe it was just like he's within our budget. It's what's happened there.
It could be that. I don't know. I think we got the perfect cast.
Yeah,
And I say this as someone again who's not huge on Robert Downey Jr. I don't dislike him, but I'm like, yeah, well, he's all right.
I think
But in this, I can't imagine anyone else doing
he
it.
seems to have that thing though. Is that people love him, but again, outside Marvel, no one shows up for this guy. So remember he did that Doctor Doolittle movie. So it's like, nope. No, nobody wants to know about it, man. Most of the things he shows up in outside of Marvel, it's just like, nah, no one cares, dude. He did a TV show, no one watched it. Like
Yeah.
he's apparently him and Anthony Michael Hall are working on a thing because I forgot about this totally. And Dave, I'll have to send you the video because it's a thing you might actually be quite interested in, and we'll probably get very frustrated by because the person keeps mispronouncing names and stuff in it as well. But because earlier I've been making my way through like a 90-minute YouTube video about one season wonders on SNL.
Mhm.
People who were on Saturday Night Live for one season and then were gone. And there's so many of them where you're like, I didn't know that they were one season, and a lot of them I didn't even know they were ever on SNL. Like Gilbert Gottfried was on SNL for one season. He never did the voice. They never got him to do all the Gilbert. He just like came in, was just like a normal boring guy. Got him to play a corpse one time, and then they fired him. And
Wait, hang on. Can I just ask a question? Is that him doing a voice? I thought that was just his voice.
no, that's him putting on a voice apparently.
Yeah.
I thought that was how he spoke.
Yeah. And
No,
then,
I think he just in the 90s he got his bread buttered doing that voice. So it's the same thing with the redneck comedy guys. Like they don't exaggerate their comedy stuff like that. It's just that something in the early 2000s when those redneck comedy guys were doing that bit, they were making buco money, and so they were like the Larry the Cable Guy was just a character affectation. Like is it kind of like the redneck version of like Andrew Dice Clay's type of like on stage personality, just like this exaggerated Ayo, and then just that became their bread and butter, and they couldn't step away from it. Same thing with him. Like he's an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark with like a 10-year-old Ryan Gosling, and he's doing that whole voice the whole time, and he's supposed to be
Andrew Dice Clay isn't. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
No, I'm sorry, Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh, okay.
But he's doing that voice because it's like, hey, I just made buco money as Iago, the parrot. So when I'm on Are You Afraid of the Dark, the kids are gonna recognize me when I start doing that voice. They're gonna be, oh my god, that's the bear from Aladdin.
Yeah. But apparently though, like, and there's so many other people. Like Catherine O'Hara was on SNL. She didn't even make it to air. Like she was just like was brought on for the troupe, and then they were just like she hated the guy who was. It was a guy. It's all in this video, but there was a really contentious producer, and then he left and came back like 3 times, and then he came back, and then literally he's like, "All right, this is the new cast," and then she hated him that much that before they even went to air in the first episode she was in, she walked away from the show. But yeah, apparently in season 6, which is supposed to be infamous, has been the worst season of Saturday Night Live ever, and that's saying something. Yeah, I had people like Billy Crystal was on in that year. I think Martin Short might have been. Oh no, I think those were the ones straight after. But like, yeah, you had Anthony Michael Hall after Weird Science and Breakfast Club and all that stuff was in SNL for one season, which I did not know. And also at that time, Robert Downey Jr. And apparently Rolling Stone have said that he was the worst actor to ever appear on SNL. The worst performer on SNL was Robert Downey Jr. And to look at his stuff, it's like they say it's like, yeah, he can't do sketch comedy. He can't leap from role to role. He's a good dramatic actor, he's a good comedy actor, but once he's in a thing, he kind of lives in that part for a while. So you can't have him do like Dana Carvey, will be Garth one sketch, and then the next sketch he's like a weatherman, that kind of thing.
Well, no, that's an important difference because it doesn't mean you're not good or you're not funny. It's just it's a different type of comedy, a different skill.
Oh yeah, the amount and again that video, people are like, "Oh, terrible comedy actors didn't last in SNL." Turns out they have a massive dramatic career afterwards, and they're huge Broadway stars and stuff like that. It's just like it's a different type of performance. But no, I did not realize that one that Anthony Michael Hall and Robert Downey Jr. were on SNL at the same time, which was just was insane to me. And also, those two guys are like friggin' peas in a pod. Like to this day, that they're planning to make a TV show together. Anthony Michael Hall, of course, people might know him in our remit is The Dark Knight, the friggin' TV reporter. But they made Weird Science together. Then they made a movie that we have brought up in the show before called Johnny Be Good, which is an 80s teen comedy I've tried to watch. And I usually can sit through any 80s teen comedy out of sheer nostalgia. And I could not make it through it. It's awful. But it also has, I think it's Uma Thurman's first ever role.
Wow. See, I feel like I need to watch it for that because I like the song. And also because I used to like the wrestler, Johnny Be Bad.
No, it's very little to do with either. But yeah, they also made a thing called Hail Caesar together, which was Anthony Michael Hall's directorial debut. And it looks f***ing awful. It's like, watch the trailer for it, and it's just like, he's playing a rock star with like Spike from Buffy bleached hair in it. And the trailer starts off with like, he's got it all. He's got the looks. He's got the babes. But the one thing he doesn't have is a clue. And it's wacky shenanigans. But it's also got like, it's him, Robert Downey, and freaking Frank Gorshin, who of course is going to be our incoming Riddler in the next season. So it's like, and of course, Hail Caesar being the title of the movie that once starred George Clooney as well.
Yeah,
I guess we're going to be reviewing Anthony Michael Hall's Hail Caesar at some point as well.
I'm up for talking about it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think Downey Jr. at one point, he also did a movie that I've seen quite recently, thinking he was going to be one thing. It was entirely another. He did a film called The Pickup Artist in the late 80s, which again I thought was a teen comedy. Him, Molly Ringwald. You watch, it's like, no, they're full-blown adults in it, and it's about him trying to get her out of the mob or something. It's like really dramatic. It's also really forgettable. The only two things I remember about it now is that, like, looking into it, she wanted to work with Downey Jr. for years because she wanted him to play Ducky in Pretty in Pink.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She was like, that's Ducky. You got to hire that guy, which I can see, to be fair.
I can totally see that.
Yeah. He does exude Ducky energy. Maybe it's almost he's too handsome. It might be the thing.
Because Ducky, like, I know you don't particularly like him necessarily.
I've rewatched the film in very recent months, and I've somewhat softened the Ducky. I kind of get now. It's like he's a kid. He's a kid. You just have to let it go.
He's a kid, and he's cute, but he's not. He's not like hot.
Yeah, if you're going up against Andrew McCarthy, it's just like, yeah, this he's all right looking, but Andrew McCarthy's classically like a good looking dude.
Yeah, I'd go for the Ducky. Well, actually, no, I'd go for the Ducky looking guy. Maybe not the personality though, because he is a little bit too much.
Yeah. But then if it's like Andrew McCarthy versus Robert Downey Jr., it's like, to be fair, he's also, he's the guy who should be playing the Blaine. Like he's such a good looking dude. But yeah, that movie, The Pickup Artist, also popped up just this week in the news because it's directed by a guy called James Toback. And he was like a director who worked with a bunch of people and has had like 40 plus accusations of harassment by people like Selma Blair went up against him. Rachel Adams went up against him. Julianne Moore said yep, James Toback harassed me. He finally got convicted this week. And he's 80 years old. And the court have said he has to pay all of these people who've accused him $1.86 billion.
Whoa!
Wow!
What the hell?
Which is insane. Not so much as that's what they're owed. It's like, well, that's fair enough. It's kind of a little bit like he's getting away with it though, because he's never going to pay that. He's 80.
No, he can just ride it out at this point if he's 80.
He's 80 years old. He ain't paid. He hasn't got $1.86 billion on him. Like he's gonna have to. I guess he'll just be a pauper for the rest of his life. But like,
Well, then again, it depends. Like, because they'll. I don't know the terms because this is the first I've heard of it, but maybe they'll still get the money when he dies. Maybe his estate has to be sold off.
I guess so. And
I don't know how it works.
But again, I don't think he was all that rich because he's like, well, he made like the pickup artist back in like 1987. It's like, I don't think the money's still pouring in for that one.
I want this is what I want to bring up because it's part of your discussion, part of the movie. That's why I want to bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there's definitely like Shane Black is saying a lot. The more I think about how like how expendable women are in Hollywood. I think it's like what I mean is that like obviously Michelle Monaghan sets us up saying that these women are getting older, in their 30s.
Yeah, 35. Geez.
And then you think about like the plot and the fact that Corbin Burnson is playing this retired actor who's still having these Hollywood parties. And he's doing it is honestly, when then you realize the reason he's doing this is to show off his daughter. Him and his daughter have made up. And then you find out his daughter is an actress. And you find out he's using this actress. He put his real daughter in the mental ward where she is like they're being paid off to essentially keep her in a comatose. And the fact that another woman comes into his life, which is Michelle Monaghan. Hold on, I'll get a character name. Harmony's sister. So it's like Harmony's sister comes, thinks he's her dad, thinks this guy's having an affair with his daughter, when really it's just an actress playing his daughter.
That's where it gets really complicated. But it's like, hang on a minute. So it's like it's not the person you thought it was. It's this other actress, and it turns out she saw them and thought it was incest, but it's not incest.
Yeah, the fact. So I looked her name up. The actress's name is Shannon Sossamon.
Yeah,
she's just called Pink-Haired Girl. We don't really know her whole story, but the way I see it watching this film is she probably was an actress who didn't get roles, and then Harlan Dexter, Corbin Burnson's character, kind of picks her up, has an interest in her, so they have this romantic fling, and also he's like, "Oh, I want you to kind of be useful and stuff like this." He then has her then set up with Mr. Fire and Mr. Frying Pan, those two heavies, to essentially try to set up Harry and Gay Perry in that shootout. So it's like she's being used, but I'm guessing she's like either enjoying it. She might not know that she's obviously getting involved in an assassination plot. Then she gets killed by them. It is. And then the body that we see in the beginning was that's the real daughter.
The real daughter, yeah.
And then the daughter. Is that the morgue at the end was her body again, but she had no panties on, which was a hint at she was in the mental institute. It honestly is complicated. The fact that I love this film and I've watched it like a dozen times, and I'm still like, the movie does not show you these scenes. So you're like, this happened some point, either last week, last month, and now we're seeing the end result of it. Because it also obviously when he says the Johnny Gosford novels, there's a straightforward case and a weird case, and they're actually connected. That's the twist. And then you find out that's the twist. And it's like, part of it is that, the sister died, but she was not really involved in the plot. She just saw the plot and killed herself.
Yeah.
Because
she's got very little sort of going on in it, really.
Yeah. Oh, well, it reminds, because obviously we should point out that like there's chapter titles throughout the movie. And they're all named after like Raymond Chandler books. So at the end, like "Farewell, My Lovely" is a Raymond Chandler book. And I know that like I think it was for like The Big Sleep or The Long Goodbye or something. Someone once went to Raymond Chandler like, this plot line doesn't actually add up to this bit here. Like, so who did this part? And Raymond Chandler himself was just like, oh, I don't know. No. It was just like it just got away from me. Like so these noir sometimes I think they do sometimes you just have to accept, like, we're just here for vibes,
Yeah.
It's like, The Big Lebowski, like, that. Like, my favorite moment of The Big Lebowski is him going up to John Polito in the car. And he's like, all right, so who are you working for? He's like, oh, man, I'm working for, like, the Haitians. And it's like, who the fuck are the Haitians? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, this other party has just been around the whole time, and only now it just comes in the movies.
Well, it's I do actually really like the sort of end of our pink-haired girl's story.
Yeah.
Because obviously, she gets shot.
I will, just before you go into it, John, I just want to point
Yeah.
out one thing. And my first watching of this movie, okay? I knew that was Shannon Sossamon because she was part of the reason why I watched the movie.
Oh.
In this era,
you know
I was in love with Shannon Sossamon.
She was a big deal to quite a few people. Yeah.
She was like, you do know her, Dave. A Knight's Tale. She's the princess of Knight's Tale.
Knight's Tale girl. God,
Yeah.
yes.
But of course, one-time Joker, Heath Ledger. And like, of course, Alan Tudyk in that movie, some friggin' everything DC now. Like he's in Superman coming up. He's doing the here, there, and everywhere. But like, and then she was in was it the 40 Days and 40 Nights with Josh Hartnett. And then the big one for me was just before this movie was The Rules of Attraction, which is Bret Easton Ellis adaptation. Of course, Bret Easton Ellis also wrote Lesson Zero, which is one of Robert Downey Jr.'s first big movies. Everything's connected. And you see her, Shannon Sossamon, in The Rules of Attraction when I'm like 16, 17, is just like the most gorgeous woman in the world. She's so cool. When you see her interviewed, she always looks like she's a little high and she's always very hippie. She has this cool, choppy haircut that like I was just obsessed with. Everything
But it's
about
not pink.
No, it wasn't pink. She's a very like Ramona Flowers, like pre Ramona Flowers hairdo in this, actually, the pink haired girl. And just like everything about Shannon Sossamon, I just loved her. I could not wait. And so even when like Yellow Jackets was like gearing up, and they were like, we need someone to play the adult version of this character, I was like, Shannon Sossamon, now's the time to bring her back, baby, because she's not worked in anything substantial in ages.
It's time.
And it's only in recent years that I realized like she's not actually a very good actress.
Oh, you just think she's hot.
She is gorgeous and she is cool. I remember at the time when I first watched this.
I'm sorry. Who did you want her? I want to know who did you want her to play as? Was it the role that Juliette Lewis had?
No. At the end of season 1 of Yellow Jackets, it reveals that Courtney Eaton's character Lottie is still alive. And the first season you don't know that. You're just like, though she's in the wilderness, and then only these people make it back. And at the end of season 1, it's like Lottie's still alive. We haven't seen her yet, but she made it back from the wilderness as well. And I was like, Shannon Sossamon would be perfect for that part. She would match it. And then the actress they actually cast her as was dull as dishwater, and you're just like, well, that didn't work. But would Shannon Sossamon have been better? Maybe. I would have been happier, at least. But yeah, so when I watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and I was like, reading reviews, and I seen like, I think she was like 4th or 5th build in it, like Shannon Sossamon. And I was like, oh, well, here we go. I'm gonna love this thing. And then been waiting like the first hour of the movie, been like, any second now. She's gonna be in it any second now. And then she shows up and like her body drops next to the bed. I'm like, what? And then she didn't even get like a friggin' line in it. And you only see her at the end for a little flashback. I was like, oh man, this is like, it was slightly devastating to me. I think maybe it left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth afterwards. But I was like, kiss, kiss, bang, bang.
I think how you're feeling is warranted. I'm not saying that's wrong, but like, there's definitely something with Shane Black's writing. When people die, it is not a dramatic, flat way. It is a very cold and hollow feeling. And I would say maybe Corbin Burnson's death is the only one that ever has this triumphant feeling, because it's like the novel of the film is wrapping up. Yeah. But like, even when he shoots and kills Rockman Dunbar, it's not very heroic. It is very much like Robert Downey Jr.'s character Harry is still in this traumatized state.
And it's horrifying.
A woman like he like that was kind of against him is now dead, and he's just like, the protector mode in him is just like absolute, like just running off of like adrenaline and painkillers and stuff, and just like, he's done that in the past where like when people are dying, sometimes it's not dramatic. Shane Black definitely does a lot of those deaths, and it's just like very cold hard, and now they're meat. They were a person a minute ago, and now they're just meat.
Yeah. Well, that's why I kind of like, I don't know if he did it deliberately in the story. I like what Harry does, when we see her get killed. He shoots the guy and he plants the gun on her. Because I know, obviously, he's doing it so he doesn't get arrested, he doesn't get put in jail, he's killed a man, But in a weird way, it's doing something really nice for her, I think, in her death. because it's giving her a nicer ending
Mm.
for her story. If your life is a story, because now it's not just some random woman got shot in a room. Now it's like she maybe she got shot by this guy, but she killed him.
Yeah.
As she was dying, and that's like a nice triumphant thing to give to her.
Yeah.
But I don't think the character was necessarily doing it for those reasons. But it's still a nice thing he's done.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, you're kind of heroic now.
No,
yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, totally.
Think about-
I'd rather be thought of in the end as like, well, at least I was doing something. I didn't just.
Yeah.
I wasn't just a victim. I was actually taking charge and got revenge.
You went
at them.
down fighting.
Yeah.
Think
totally.
about Nice Guys as well. Like Margaret Qualley, before she pops off, just gets killed by John Boy, and it's like you thought she was going to get away with it, and John Boy kills her, and it's just like she gets just shot. Like she gets shot from a distance. It's not a dramatic death. He just goes, "Wow, look how lucky I am." Bam, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like and also like Blueface. Like Blueface is a piece of shit from Jump, but like when Kurt Russell is like going to strangle him, and you can tell Kurt Russell wants to strangle him, not Annabelle. I cannot remember the name.
Anna Gory. Right?
And Gory Rice. She's just like Mr. Healy. She gives him this look, like, "Did you kill him? Like, don't." And at the end, when he has every right to just absolutely beat John Boy to a pulp, and she's she's like, "I don't want you to kill him. I don't want you to do it." And it's like, I just can't get over how good that character is, and she has this beautiful moral compass that like fixes both her dad and Mr. Healy, and it's like something that like he doesn't have in his past films. He does not have a real moral compass character. Our characters might have a moral compass, but sometimes it's like they like flatline for a second, do something cold, and then they kind of like turn the dial back afterwards. Yeah. Whereas she does keep this like, don't stoop to these men's levels and give them this cold, brutal death.
I've remembered it's Gowrie Rice.
Rice.
She's Australian because she has a podcast as well. She has a podcast called The Community Library, and I'm not a librarian myself. But like I remember joining. It's like, oh, she seems like a really nice person, and she's really into reading. And then after a while, like she's actually very dull. She's like because she's just so nice. She's just really wholesome. Just like she's like written a book with her mom. Like she's like that level of wholesome is like. Oh, I hope you have a nice life, Angari. You seem like a wonderful person.
And I know it's been years now, so it's like, doing it. If I get a Nice Guys 2, the vibe's going to be different because everyone's 10 years older now. So it's like Nice Guys 2 to have to take place somewhere in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't be a kid anymore. So like the precocious child stuff's gone. But I still think it could be done. I don't know. It's just it's so hard. It's like time has passed. And who else? What would you do? Like there's a time where I thought
there's a version of our universe where they make a Nice Guys sequel set in the 80s. What was the big detective show in the 80s that everybody loved at the time?
I mean, Magnum PI, which is
one that's more specific to your interest that was mentioned in this podcast already.
Yeah, at the start.
Why am I panicking? I can't think of like Miami Vice. Jeez, Miami Vice. Yeah, Miami Vice.
I think like Full Tilt just had Gosling in the Crockett outfit and stuff as well.
And Shane Black, I know at some point Shane Black did say that where he's like, look, I know these movies aren't big hits, but he's like, I could write these type of movies forever. And so it's like he's kind of like, I could easily do these if I ever got money. So
if I win the lottery, I'm going to fund.
Yeah, he needs angel investors. He needs somebody.
We've taken a couple of pot shots at Marvel throughout this episode. To be fair to them as a company, they're employing people like your Taika Waititis and stuff like that. They also went Shane Black. Come on for Iron Man 3. Like they gave Iron Man 3, true. Which I will say I think is like the best of the Iron Man films. Is like one thing we have to bring up though, because it was the one of the big moments of this movie that got such a reaction out of me the first time I saw it. And I can't believe we've not brought it up. Is just that scene. Of like, so they kind of set it up early where he goes to Michelle Monaghan's door the first time and she keeps slamming it in his face. And then they have a scene later where he goes back and she slams it in his face again and then opens it up and is just like, did I just chop off your finger in the door frame? And he's like, yeah. And you look at it, like,
he's pretty chill about it.
Oh, he's chill about it. And then like, I think it's shock because like 40 seconds later, he's just like, You chopped off my finger! Like he finally erupts about it and stuff.
It's got to be the shock, because in the moment he's just sort of like, yeah, you did.
Yeah, he's very like, modern day Hollywood blockbuster glib about like, yeah, well, whatever. But then I think it realistically does hit him that like, Jesus Christ, you chopped my damn finger off.
The best thing with the finger as well is the fact that it doesn't just like, oh, he gets his finger chopped off and they leave it, or he gets his finger chopped off and they go and get it sorted. It's the fact that it's then a problem again.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, dog ate it.
The dog takes the finger.
That's good stuff. It's good. Like it's but again, that kind of glib Robbie, you can see the makings of these things that will become very prominent in Marvel though because of him.
Like, oh yeah. I don't think that character, Tony Stark, would have worked half as well if he didn't sort of hone it doing stuff like this, because it's the same kind of thing.
But I think even some of the way that maybe it's not just Marvel, maybe it's been a lot of modern Hollywood. But like at the end, like you're saying, Dave, about like the only really satisfying death is you get Corbin Bernstein, and he shoots him, and he's just like he does the whole like magic, the callback, and you're like, hey, and then Downey Jr. takes out a couple of more goons on the freeway, and then he drops down on top of the car. But just the way then as soon as it's done, he kind of flips the gun over. He's just like, okay, all done. Like he's a kid. It's like, okay, now let's finish that. And that's at the time was very unique. I've been like, kind of real. But I think that and like the way Family Guy always talked about things and like the way the people actually talk, that sort of thing, it's meshed itself into Hollywood then in such a way where like it kind of led to the he's behind me, isn't he? Kind of.
Oh God, that shit. Yeah.
I think they went overboard with it. Like now it's just like every time you get a joke like that, you're like, yeah, we did this. I want some good old fashioned Shakespearean sincerity in some of my scripts nowadays. Flippant. It's good when Robert Downey Jr. does it because he's Robert Downey Jr. That kind of thing.
That whole thing that Robert Downey Jr. does, that's his shtick. And I've never sort of thought about this, but it's very similar to, I hate to bring this person up, but Joss Whedon's humor.
Oh, totally. So yeah.
So everything's kind of connected again there because of Avengers.
Yeah, there you go. So you got like the Downey Jr. getting big, you got the Family Guy kind of connection, and then just like the Whedon-esque dialogue, which is just like fused itself into the Hollywood to such an extent. And now I think we're out the other side of all that, where it's like you don't get it as much, but like there is you'll still get witty dialogue, and you'll still get some little bits like that, but there was a time in the last like 15 years or so where it was like a strangulation of just like everything had to be that.
They kind of ruined it because I hate to praise him, but when Joss initially did it, that was cool, that was fresh, that was hip.
Oh yeah.
And then once everyone's doing it, you're like, well, I'm bored of that now.
Yeah. And I don't know who the person I would point the finger at to like, because I could kind of say Sean Levy, I could kind of say the Ryan Reynolds, Chris Pratt, but like. That's like those are two actors. They're not writing their own stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know who is spearheading this type of comedy that has now become so prevalent of this third party make a joke after everything's serious type of nonsense.
Well, that's why I think it's so well done because it's so easy to screw this up and make it irritating.
Yeah.
This movie could be really annoying and you hate everyone in it and you think they're just jerks. And somehow they veer away from that. I don't know how they've done it. It's a tightrope.
Yeah.
I think
they've been perfect.
Because they also kind of know that Harry's annoying as well. Because even like literally the last scene is Gay Perry coming over and like physically shutting him up and been like, just say your goodbyes and get the hell out. Like, just stop talking for God's sake.
That is a great little outro, isn't it? And he working for Perry, nice little ending.
Yeah.
But the one thing I'll say is that new look of Gay Perry, I don't like it with the ponytail and the face. But I also appreciate that it's meant to be time has passed. People change their look. That's cool. But go back, man. You look cool before.
And there's no way Harry would have let that look pass without making some kind of comment. Like he's definitely taking the piss out of that. Although it's weirdly foreshadowing the Tony Stark goatee.
It's kind of similar.
It'd be weird if like Val Kilmer had that look because like, I just auditioned to play this superhero they're casting for down the way. But yeah, I don't know, because this is the type of thing we could go on for hours talking about kiss, kiss, bang, bang. Like there's even like elements we haven't even talked about Michelle Monaghan, as in just this was a real star making turn for her. I don't think the
Yeah.
career ever panned out the way we all hoped it would. Because
That's almost exactly a line from the movie
yeah,
where she says like, "Oh, things didn't turn out the way we imagined," or something like, "Oh, the way we thought."
yeah. Because she kind of goes from this, and she's like really, happens so many times. Very sprightly character, really fun. Just gets really great lines of dialogue. A character you really grow to love, and then what you go on to do, like, oh yeah, she was in Mission Impossible 3, where she was just damsel in distress.
Yep.
She was in another comedy with Downey Jr., like The Pickup or The Drive Away or something like that. Like something him and Jack Galifianakis thing she was also in.
I will say this though, I thought she held her own next to Casey Affleck in Gone Baby Gone. She was a really good partner for him in that Boston detective stuff. So I was like, she can easily do it. And Eagle Eye, I remember seeing it in movies, but it is a real like in and out. Just like it was like knockoff Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
Source Code. I mean, she was more like her character in this in Source Code, where she was cutesy but also calling BS on Jake Gyllenhaal's like I'm a man on a mission type of stuff.
Yeah. And then like I feel almost bad for her because like she's in the best season of True Detective. She's in but she's just you're up against like in the prime of the McConaissance, Matthew McConaughey, and Woody Harrelson's actually doing a lot of fun stuff, and then Alexandra Daddario's breaking onto the scene, and it really feels like, and also Michelle Monaghan is here. It feels like she really got drowned out by everything, and just the sheer quality of the show, because like she has a good part in it, and she gets like loads of stuff to chew on, but the main stuff you remember from True Detective season 1 is all Rust Cole and the sheer misery porn of the weird sort of quasi supernatural shenanigans happening rather than like Woody Harrelson's home life, all that stuff.
I'm honestly impressed though how when it came to Mission Impossible Fallout, I thought obviously her character was just this. I just remember when I saw her in Mission Impossible 3, it's in the middle of the Cruise Katie Holmes thing, and I was like, I don't really want to know if I can deal with Tom Cruise and a brunette on screen, him trying to play a good guy. But then again, I feel like by the time we get to Mission Impossible Fallout, and Christopher McQuarrie kind of sort of pseudo fixes everything in the Mission Impossible lore with Ethan Hunt, and then her being like, this woman that he had to let go of. It's like, damn, like she really was that nice third act human thing, that like we believed it, and her and Vin Rames on the bomb. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful ending. And then her whispering to Ilsa Faust, Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I just got in my head, Dave, just like you seeing this at the time and the whole Katie Holmes thing happening and be like, I can't deal with Tom Cruise and a brunette on screen. And there's them sliding over the poster for Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, and you've been like, oh, thank God. Some blonde hair. I can deal with this.
I really think that was a time for me where I was kind of like, he is sabotaging himself that I didn't see I have still not seen Night and Day. I can. Like, I'm told by people it's not a horrible film. It's not, but it's like, it's fine. But it was definitely a part where it felt like it's just he was just ruining himself with the whole Scientology and Kate Holmes aspect. He was like, I'm like, I don't like seeing him on movies.
Yeah, I keep forgetting freaking James Mangold made Night and Day. It's like you have Copland and friggin' Logan. James Mangold, acclaimed film director, a guy who's like, oh, if he makes something, I'll watch it. And it's like I've still never seen Night and Day. So it's like, well, it looked terrible, but like, no, he made that. Like, oh, maybe it's all right then if he made it, But yeah, only one other big thing I did want to, because I always have to pull together a bit of everything's connected. And I did note that apparently you see those Johnny Gossamer novel covers, beautiful, the old pulpy kind of thing.
Yeah,
again,
really
the thing
cool.
I think if they didn't do the Saul Bass kind of poster, another way you market this is by just doing a cover like that. Maybe they think that's too artsy or something for the Hollywood crowd, or for like the the Midwest popcorn chompers. I think that's you make the poster of it look like an old pulp novel basically. But they got in the guy who a guy called Robert McGinnis, spelled the same way as Terry McGinnis, I did note, to do though, like each and every one of those, he went and hand painted a lot of Johnny Gossamer covers. But he also did a load of film posters, you might remember. And so Breakfast at Tiffany's, that the iconic poster of Audrey Hepburn with the cigarette holder, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
That's that guy. He also did most of the old school Bond movies. So like, Doctor No, Goldfinger, et cetera, all drawn by that same guy, Robert McGinnis, who just passed away this year in March 2025 at age 99, apparently. But I also noted that originally, okay, so the movie shares its title with a song from the soundtrack of the James Bond movie Thunderball. Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was recorded first by Shirley Bassey and then Dionne Warwick for composer John Barry, who had chosen the title when he read a magazine article which mentioned that that was how Bond was known in Italy, Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
However, the producers got cold feet at the last moment and asked them to write a title song, Thunderball, which was then performed by Tom Jones. And of course, who did the poster for Thunderball? By Mr. Robert McGinnis. But so everything's connected.
Once more.
But of course, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang wasn't the original title because I think it's based on a book called.
Oh, Bodies Are Where You Find Them. I think that's a great title.
Yeah. That's a good title. And then also, I think they originally were going to call it "You'll Never Die in This Town Again," which is
that's a great name.
Spin on the old phrase "You'll never have lunch in this town again," which is a big Hollywood LA thing of like if you're throwing somebody out of the movie business, it's like "You'll never have lunch in this town again." Which great title. And then Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is not a bad title, but it does feel like a compromise in comparison to like Where the Bodies Fall and I guess You'll Never Die in This Town Again is a bit of a mouthful. So,
no, but I love that though. It'd be even more memorable. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang's fine, and it does sum the movie up a little bit, I suppose. But that's so much better.
Yeah, it's but yeah, it's but Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is just like it's snappy, much like Harry, I guess is the kind of thing. It's like it rolls off the tongue.
I don't know. There's sort of love stories in it, but it's not. I don't know. Kiss Kiss. It's not that much.
Well, I do love the twist of him flirting away with Harmony, and then it's cut to the next scene, and it's like, no, he shagged her, but well, you think. She thinks he shagged her best friend, but he's like, as far as I'm aware, I don't think I actually did. Though.
He doesn't know if he did. He's pretty confident it didn't happen.
That was a wild night, though, for people in their 30s. Like, at 34, I wasn't going to a friggin' house party and then out on the town for the night and then going to, like, getting blackout drunk to the level where I couldn't remember if I slept with someone or not. And then going to someone else's house at 6 a.m. to talk to them about it and seeming pretty fresh. It's like, man.
I've done similar.
I mean, remember, this is post 9/11 pre-recession vibes. So maybe 30-year-olds in that still had energy before all that. Now we're like, no, it's 9:00. I'm going to turn in, folks.
I don't know. No matter how drunk I get, though, I never forget things, which could be a bad thing, actually. You might want to forget things. But I've done the rest of it pretty much,
I don't think like Robert Downey, though, just be like, oh, I'm assuming I party like that all the time. It's like, yeah, but you're on like cocaine with stun a horse, man. Like you're just, it's like you could keep that going. Like, oh, this is day 3 of the bender. Yeah, of course I'm still wide awake. What's the problem? But yeah, 34-year-olds nowadays will be like, no. I need my stories, and I'm gonna.
Well, I do remember not that long ago. It was only a few months ago. Yeah, I was out partying, very very drunk. Went back to someone's house. Ended up leaving at 6 a.m, and I'm like, oh, I'm 38. I shouldn't be doing that at 6 a.m. It's like, people are going to work.
Yeah, but at the same time, we know people who are like bordering on 40, and they have like parties that'll last like literally till like about 6 a.m. that they're hosting, and I'm still like, that's stuff I did in my 20s, man. I can't. I think more because I live in fear of hangovers now. I just can't deal with them, so I'm just like, I will, even if I'm having a good time, I'll be like. What's it, 2:30? I'm done.
That's sensible.
Let's not push it beyond this,
No, I want to ask you, because you're going to know more about this. And I feel like what is with Shane Black's his interest in mutilating a character, especially their hand. We have Damon Wayans gets his throwing hand stabbed. Obviously, he gets his finger cut off in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. and then Ryan Gosling gets his arm cut by glass in Nice Guys. And I'm trying to think of any characters in Long Kiss Goodnight. I feel like maybe Sam Jackson got his hand caught, or maybe someone's got like a bandage on their nose, kind of like a Chinatown, Robert Town thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know if it's a noir thing or it's just, it's something about it's attracting that you just don't have it in movies anymore, where someone has this injury throughout the film that kind of like sets them back a bit.
Yeah, it's true. No, I never thought about it. I guess it's just like if you do it on the hand or the arm, it's a visual thing that's kind of like there the whole time. But if you do something to someone's like foot or leg, it's like, they gotta like work it in as a limp and stuff the whole time, and you have to keeping track of that in terms of filming might be a pain in the ass. It's like,
I think
do something
Mad Max. I think Mad Max is the only character I can think of that like gets a limp and then they keep it for the rest of the franchise.
Yeah,
because like he gets clipped by the shotgun, and then Rick, I remember him and Julia were mentioning how like you see Mel Gibson doing a little limp, and then like Tom Hardy, everyone has a little limp when they're continuing the Mad Max movies.
Yeah. It's but no, it could be just a little. Here's Shane Black talk. He's a very like in the screenwriter's guide kind of guy. He knows how to. He'll say things like, "Well, every 28 pages, you have to have a thing that like jolts the audience because people's attention span has been proven to only last 28 minutes. So if you go beyond that without something really like shocking happening, you're going to lose them. So that's why he writes scripts a certain way. Apparently, he has a whole thing about like recurring things about. I think he found out at one point that if you hired killers know to stand at least 5 feet away from people because otherwise you can just grab the gun out of their hand. And he has that in every movie where like someone will just like tap a gun out of someone's hand and take it for themselves. It's like
interesting.
Yeah, so he does, but I don't know if you have the. I think you're definitely on to something, Dave, in terms of like he has a thing about like wounded people's hands and arms and stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, well, yeah, you need a thing there to like a little button for this reason because this works in people's minds like this kind of thing. You'll have thought it out as a practical. This is how I keep people engaged and stuff. I think about it's also because Shane Black works so exclusively in like film noir as well.
Yeah.
That like it's a very noirish thing is to like, oh yeah, your hero has to get the shit pounded out of him. Like the whole like Humphrey Bogart was always getting beaten up.
This is why we need Shane Black sequels. He never has done a sequel. Like even I don't think Lethal Weapon 2 he was as involved in it. Makes it sound like he like had some things, but he was not as hard on it as it was in Lethal Weapon 1. And I feel like he now is just doing a lot of these, like, what if these guys met up, solved the case and became detectives? And he's been repeating that because he hasn't got a big hit. He's always been in this, like, people who are in the know. Because it's like, if he did a sequel with the same characters, it's like, then he controls a movie now. He's not under the thumb of a big time director. He could do his own writing, directing, and then he could do a reference to the fact, like, what do you do in a sequel with, established buddy cops who are now good buddies? They're not buddy heads anymore.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But like it's 22 Jump Street's the only thing that ever did that, as a flat out comedy.
I mean, again, as I said, we could go on for hours. So maybe we have. The only one big note I wanted to put down is because it had been a while since I'd seen this, so I wasn't entirely like, oh yeah, does it turn out at the end that Michelle Mahoney's like in on everything or something like that, and there's like she turns out to be like a secret villain or something. And the thing that like had me really suspicious of her is because at that club, Danny Jr. like meets this lady Flicka.
Oh yeah.
And then later on, she's like, oh yeah, my friend Flicka. And I was like, that's the name of like an old book about like horses or something. And I was like, she's got to be in on it. Because she's done a name job. She's obsessed with like old literature, like old pulpy noses, like my friend Flicka, all the Johnny Gossamer stuff. So I was like, oh, she's got to be in on it. That's going to be the big twist, right? And then I was like, no, she was totally innocent. Yes, but
you tried.
Yeah, I thought because they did that movie or that TV show, The After Party, like 2 years back. I remember like the first season, within like the first 3 episodes, we're going, it's Ben Schwartz, and just knowing because it set it up so I was like, I know these things. I'm 5 steps ahead of all these Hollywood dildos, and then now I've been like, oh wait, no, they were trying to hide it, but like a good magician, I didn't see that it was Hollywood sleazebag Corbin Bernstein the entire time. But do we have any parting thoughts on what was supposed to be our Val Kilmer like tribute episode, but it's been so much more. But like,
Yeah, well, we didn't want to
Val.
just be, yeah, R.I.P. Val. We didn't want to just be miserable though, and bring everyone down because we've all been thinking about Val and his career and everything. So we just thought let's just talk about one of his great movies.
Yeah.
Rather than let's be sad.
Yeah.
I think what we're kind of getting at in this movie is just like how this movie really talked kind of down about the Hollywood scheming things that like I feel like that a lot of modern audiences were not ready to kind of come to grips with that. Like, oh yeah, a lot of like things like this happen in Hollywood all the time. Not this like murder stuff, but like just the ins and outs of just like people come in, the city kind of chews them up, and the ho hum of it all. There's definitely something to be said about that.
Agreed.
Have you okay, I don't think I've advertised it to you guys yet, and I'm going to advertise it in a way. I'm not sponsored, I swear to God. No, a new game just came out that I've been playing the demo of months ago. It just came out. It's called Hollywood Animal. Have you heard of this?
Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah.
I bought it, and I've been busy. I also been busy playing Schedule One. If everyone knows about that, like I've been creating so much fictional meth and weed in that game that I forgot everything else. But Hollywood Animal. The point is Hollywood Animal is you start up a studio in the 1930s, and from what I'm gathering is that you can run the studio for decades. I don't know how far in the game, but it's still early access, so they might expand it. All I know is at least it goes to the 50s. It might go later. Maybe they'll expand it to more modern age. But I love
that if it just kept going.
Because I even brought that up to developers. Like, I hope you get the funding. I hope you get the time, the patience to do it, because I would love to get into modern day Hollywood where you have a whole different set of morals, because it's like in the 30s and 40s where like they still own the actual theaters themselves, and you're doing deals and shit. Like when I was playing the demo, I was making money on the side, letting drug peddlers move cocaine on the sets, but all my people were getting addicted to it.
And do you get to have like a stable of stars like they used to do a lot?
Yes, you can. Like if you can have a hiring of it, and there also gets to a point where it says like people are kind of tired of seeing these type of actors in the same roles, and it's kind of like you got to branch them off, and you'll get a diminishing returns if you kind of keep banging out the same movie with the same actor. So
I hope someone does a mod where they mod in actual actors from the real world.
Yeah, I mean, like I think like obviously it's the 30s, so there could be some in 40s, so there's probably some like a similarity stuff in there, but there's definitely parts where it's like a woman will be like, she's probably maybe she might have been a drug addict. She's like, I need this. I can't come back. I still got to get clean. And maybe you try to force her. Like, no, you're not. You're doing this movie. And then it's like 2 months into the shooting. It's like, oh, by the way, she killed herself. And you're like, well, we got to film around it, or we got to recast. And it's just like, you have to deal with all these horrific sick shits that are on like while making a movie. So
you end up becoming a scumbag, basically.
Yeah, like you're kind of like, you weigh like, are we paying more money, or do you want to get this thing done in a month because you need the turnaround now?
Get it done, damn it.
That would think though. Then like afterwards, you'd be watching films like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or anything like your L.A. Confidential with people in power being inherently corrupt, and been like, no, I get them though. Because like the pressure on me in that game to keep the wheels turning, you have to add a little oil sometimes. Come on, man.
Yeah, dude.
I gotta cut the bottom line here.
Yeah, the chief of police, like you get to like make deals with him where it's like you can make essentially cop propaganda movies, and essentially you're buying, and you can kind of like use that as influence to pay them off so they do not come and raid the movies. The movie
so you
studios.
Can sell drugs.
Yeah, like they actually came to me and said, "Hey, we scored some drugs, and would you like us to like essentially have those dealers come to you?" And I was like, "Yeah." So like I was essentially paying the cops to get their cut, to give me the drug dealers to get my cut, to get my people on the set addicted to coke. So yeah, like you can get as dirty as you want.
It's be like you're going to be watching a future Batman film, Dave, and be like, listen, Bruce, don't go so rough on Rupert Thorne. You don't know what he's having to deal with every day. Right?
Yeah.
You put yourself in his shoes and his, like, velvet wingtips, and we'll just see how we're getting on.
God, yeah.
The man's stressed, damn it.
Oh, my God. I can't not wait, because I think it's hinted in the demo. You don't get to it, but it's hinted in the demo, like, the mob comes forward to you and you're like, oh, I can get Italian mob money to essentially make like The Godfather. And it's like, yes,
Perfect.
In fact, like, you've kind of sold me on this game. To be fair, like I'm like,
dude,
all right.
it is. It's a strategy simulator game. So it's like it's bird's eye view of your Hollywood set. You're building those buildings. You're like, all right, if I build the security depot, I could hire security guys to like secure the sets. I could hire them to trail people, to get blackmail on people. Like there's an actor who's like, hey, can I be bought out of my contract? And you could say, yeah, sure. Or you could say, I'll pay you more. Or you could say, like, oh, we have dirt on you. Like, you diddle kids. Like, you're going to work the full contract for us. And you could just use that as leverage. There's a whole a contract scaling gameplay mechanic where you're weighing, like, your assets and perks versus their vanity. And, you know, that's how you score people on contracts and shit.
Awesome.
But is it like a PC game or is it like an Xbox?
Right now it's just PC. But like, I mean, look at the. I don't know if the requirements are going to be heavy because like it's a simulator game. It's like a strategy top down. So it might not be too. You know, like you don't need probably to have a huge gaming PC to play this. So like, I would definitely check it out and just see if like your requirements, like you can probably play it on like graphically low at the worst case scenario, depending what like laptop you have. But okay. But I highly recommend it for people who are as crazy movie brained like us. I think this game would definitely be up your alley.
Yeah, sounds it for sure. But yeah, shall we kiss bang bang goodbye to kiss bang bang? Or...
We should indeed.
I love this film, and I was so happy to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, but it's been a minute since we talked to you in general, Dave. So and it was it's a bit sad that Val Kilmer had to die for us to be like, oh, we should do that. But also, it's like it's now giving us this opportunity to come and talk, have a good time talking about a very good movie. Like,
absolutely.
I don't know. That might be a first for a Batman episode where I don't think we had any real criticisms. It was all just like, no. It was more like I wish they had lent more into Harry being a magician. That was my only only critical point. And then I
don't think I have any criticisms.
No. I also was just thinking, though, you're saying, Dave, about in that game about like, people sick of seeing actors doing the same part. I think maybe we should put it. You never know if Harrison Ford had been hired as Gay Perry, maybe he would have really camped it up and hammed it up, and maybe
Gay Harry.
Honestly, you're right. Like because Firewall, he's very middle of the road. Like he's playing exactly what you expect of him, and maybe he needed a role where he's playing like a weird outside Harrison type character where he's not just like, I'm the strong man, I must protect my family. Like what if he just played a disillusioned private detective who's like, I'm just doing this as a job, like I don't like care as much. It would have been interesting.
Like Shane Black comes to him, he's just like, Harry, we're shooting for 2 months, could you just put the weed down for like 8 weeks and maybe do a couple of lines of coke every now and again, and then the energy will just come to you, man. You'll get there eventually. But he's like, no, I'm good. He just sits there and just takes another toke, and he's like, nah, man. I hear Val Kilmer's available. He's just like, oh, but yes. But yeah, I'm happy to move the mosey on down the road.
Well, I'm gonna put I Will Survive on the record player. Dave will go and watch Xanadu.
That was
Niall will offer you all a pity shack.
So, whether they'll offer me a pity shack is the. Those were some of the instances when they lent into being gay, though. Was the I
but
will
it was
survive.
a bit subtle the way he just randomly as well was like, oh, he's in Xanadu. It was like, what?
But yeah, Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly. Yeah.
Fantastic. See you. I was going to say see you all again soon. You don't see us. We don't see you. Thank God. We'll be back soon with more exciting Bat Minute episode. No, they are coming, listeners. They are coming. There's going to be Batman soon. Lots of Batman. Too much Batman. You won't be able to handle it. Batman pouring out your ears. Exciting.
Thanks for coming. Please stay to the end credits. If you're wondering who the best boy is, it's somebody's nephew. Don't forget to validate your parking. And to all you good people in the Midwest, sorry said fuck so much.